Foxborough Conservation Commission, and I'm calling this public meeting to order at 7 p.m. Pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, this meeting will be conducted in person and via remote means in accordance with applicable laws. When required by law or allowed by the chair, persons wishing to provide public comments or otherwise participate in the meeting may do so in person attendance or by accessing the meeting remotely via Zoom. The in-person attendance is at the Gala Meeting Room, Town Hall, and may be accessed remotely via Zoom. Following any applicant's presentation later on during the meeting, and after questions from the commission and discussing any of the applicant's project, then the members of the public will have the opportunity to ask questions and/or provide comments. Should do this directly with the commission or commission members. And if you would like to speak, please raise your hand, identify yourself, but then come up to the mic so that everybody can hear that's participating or listening to this meeting. And any votes during this meeting will be taken by roll call amongst the commission members. And for everybody, I'll ask everybody to identify themselves on the commission.
Rich Galemi.
Rebecca Kelly.
David Opatka.
Jeffrey Ames.
Peter Atanasoff.
Jane?
I'm the agent, Jane Pierce. I'm not on the commission.
No. Now, as part of the open meeting, we have an opportunity for any public comments about any issues that somebody want to bring up to the commission about other things. Do I have to wait till 7:05?
Yep. Do we have minutes to do?
Yes. Well, we have one pair of minutes to do. The minutes of June 28th, 2021. Has anybody any comments or corrections on them?
Who's that?
Chris Gallagher's in there. I don't know if that's him.
Okay.
That's the executive note.
When I reviewed them, I didn't have any issues.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. No, I don't think so either.
Good, go.
Nothing.
Okay. Anybody want to make a motion
I'll
to
make a
accept?
motion to accept the minutes from June 21st.
28.
28th.
Oh, June 28th, I'm sorry.
Second.
Need roll call vote on that?
If the major,
If
none of
Jim
the
is-
other members are on Zoom, so you guys can just do all in favor.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Jim might join it later. At that point, you probably would need to, or with
Yeah.
just him?
Yeah.
I don't know how
Bob's
that
not
works.
here.
Any more?
No, I've got executive session.
Okay, so that's later,
minutes,
that's later.
so.
Yep.
You could do the certificate of compliance request for 2 Abbey Lane. It's just administrative. It was approved before, right? And they probably just didn't file it? I thought I saw
No,
one.
they did all the other lots. They didn't do this one.
Oh, I thought I saw something in there for it. Oh, well, never mind.
7:05.
It's basically just administrative because there's no wetlands on the property or near.
They're selling, so they need this thing now.
Anybody want to make a motion to
I'll make a
issue
motion
certificate
to
of compliance?
issue this certificate of compliance for DEP
Partial,
157.
partial,
Partial?
sorry.
Okay, you got COC on here. Partial COC for 157138 for 2 Abbey Lane.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Now you got 7:05.
Yep.
Being that now it's 7:05, going to open the public hearing for 31 Water Street. Notice of intent, 157-610. Pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Foxborough's Wetlands Protection Bylaw, Chapter 267, the Conservation Commission will open a public hearing on Monday, October 4th, 2021, at 7:05 PM in the Gala Meeting Room, Foxborough Town Hall, 40 South Street, or via Zoom, on a notice of intent filed by Stephen Gary, for the demolition and reconstruction of a single-family home, along with a septic system and utilities at 31 Water Street. Portions of the proposed work lie within 100 feet of a resource area. The application is available for public inspection at the Conservation Office at the Town Hall, Monday through Thursdays, 9 to 4 p.m. This notice can also be found on the Massachusetts Newspaper Publishers Association website.
Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. For the record, my name is Bill Buckley, and I'm here representing the applicant, Stephen Gungary. As the chairman just read, we filed a notice of intent for the construction of a single-family home at a parcel of land located at 31 Water Street in Foxborough. So I've put up on the screen here, and you have in front of you small copies of the rendering, and I'm sure you have full sets of plans as well. In addition, we've done some extra ones for any neighbors that wanted to be here. So this is a 4.2 acre parcel of land. It's located on the north side of Water Street. So if you're coming from, if you're looking at the drawing, if you were coming from South Street, you'd be coming from the right down Water Street, you go over the dam, and it would be a lot immediately on your right. And you go maybe another 300 feet or so, and then you would be on Pleasant Street, Prospect Street. And this is this site currently contains an existing single-family home that's located in the front. If you kind of look at my little hand here, that's all over the place. There's an existing home in the front here, and that house has been unused for many years. And part of the project is to eliminate that home and to construct a single-family home further back on the lot. In order to do this, we've had to file with the Foxborough Planning Board a definitive plan in order to create a roadway, which is over here on the left side as you're looking at the plan. You can see the road and the cul-de-sac. The Commission has seen things like this before on other projects where we go before the Planning Board and ask the board to waive the strict compliance of the construction regulations. So instead of building a big road with sidewalks, curbing, cul-de-sac to serve one lot, we asked them to grant a waiver. And in this particular case, it's the same type of design. All of that is outside of the 100 feet. Really what we're here talking about tonight is the new home on the front, or in the back, I'm sorry. So as you can see, the site is a peninsula for the most part. It is surrounded by Cocasset Lake. The wetland, the resource areas around the site are land underwater, bordering land subject to flooding, 100-year floodplain, and bordering vegetated wetland. So on this plan, you can see the blue is the water, the edge of the water, which we've located. The lighter green is the BVW that's along the edge of the water, and then the heavier green is the upland. So I'm going to zoom in here a little bit just to get a better view of what we're talking about. So this is the portion of the site that we're interested in. I know it's hard to see, but you can see the red dots here. I try and, you try to put stuff on here, but also not make it so that it overwhelms it. So I'm outlining the 100-foot buffer zone. So you can see, because of the fact that it is a peninsula, a large portion of the site where we're proposing work lies within 100 feet of the BVW, which is the closest resource, not the bank. So we propose to conduct a four-bedroom, single-family home. You can see how wide it is. It's approximately 200 feet wide. And it's a four-bedroom house. It's a one-story house. It's a unique house because this is a unique parcel of land. So the owner, who's actually a Foxborough resident and has lived in Foxborough for at least 2 decades, and he's has the land under a purchase and sale agreement, and he wanted to lay out a home that he could live in for the rest of his life. So it's a single-family home. I mean, it's a single-story home so that, you don't have to go up and down stairs. It has a beautiful view, so you can see it's laid out. You can see how the house has angles in it. It's not your basic rectangle, and that is because he wanted to be able to look up the lake to the north. So as you're looking north, you can see, the whole lake there. And then you can see there's a patio in the rear there as well, a small pool. This isn't a big pool. I don't know what you'd call it. It's one of those, I guess it's a lap pool or something like that. But it's certainly not a large pool, but it's a pool on there. He's showing would like to build a floating dock with just a stone path down to it. You can see that, I know it's hard, but you can see the purple, I guess, is what we've shown is the limit of work and the limit of where we're proposing erosion control. And that is some of it has to do with grading, especially down in this area here and over here on the right or the southeast and in the northeast corner, and then over here in the northwest and the southwest. And this area here has been flattened out a little so that you can walk out of the house and have a flat area. The patio is off of it's a kitchen and a living room, et cetera, there. That's why it's laid out like that, so you can access it. The site is going to be served by an individual sewage disposal system. You can see it on the plan. This is an approximate location. It's outside of the 100-foot buffer zone. We've had a preliminary hearing with the Board of Health. They've asked us to see if we can move it further away. So we said, okay, and we'll come back. I think it's important to note, again, it's outside the 100, but it is a fast system, so it's a nitrogen reduction system. And again, because we're asking the Board of Health for a waiver from their regulation that requires a septic system to be 150, they normally require a fast system or a nitrogen reduction system, similar to the Conservation Commission regulation, which says that if you have a nitrogen reduction system 100 feet away, that's an allowed use. So, we don't know where that's going to be. Actually, I think what's going to end up is down here on Lot 1, is what they're asking. And it will be on an easement, and it will be 150 feet away at least. So we're working through that, and of course, we don't have an answer to that, so tonight, not that we were going to be asking for a closer tonight. You can see the limit of clearing. So you can see, yes, there's clearing where near the lake, up to the 25, which is a no disturb, except for the path accessing the floating dock. And then the limited clearing back here is rather limited. What he wants to do, he wants to have a lawn in the front there, where we show the septic, but he wants to have some lawn in that area there, but not to knock every tree down. So you can see, again, the limit of clearing. The erosion control is the heavier line. As normal on these type of houses or within the commission's purview, we will have a roof drain system. So these will be infiltration chambers on the front and back so that all the roof drains will be connected into them. The soils up here are perfect when it comes to infiltrating effluent and infiltrating rainwater, so that all of the roof drains will be recharged on the lot, which again is a low-impact development element that we know the commission likes to see, and the planning board also likes to see it. There is no activity in any resource area. There's no activity in the flood zone other than the pathway, which will be at the same grade, so there will not be an impact. We are not working in BVW, we're not working in floodplain, we're not working in land underwater, of course. So all of the activity will take place outside of the Commission's 25-foot no disturb, except for that path, as we discussed. As you're looking at the plan, from the house to the right to the wetland is about 60 feet. The left top corner, as you look at it, up in this area here, it's the closest point, it's about 36 feet. And in the front here, from here to the wetland is 100 feet. And then, of course, the body of water, the land under the water is further away than that. Again, I mean, this is just a driveway coming in. All of it is outside the buffer zone. I'll just talk about it briefly, just to talk about access. We're asking for the planning board to waive the requirement, and normally this would have to be a 20-foot wide road with curbing and sidewalks. We're asking them to waive it to 12 feet wide. We're putting on the right side of it a stone trench, so that runoff will pitch to the stone trench down into this depression, which is it's an existing low area down in here. So where the water goes now, it will continue to go in that direction. I should mention up here, in this portion of it, and right about at this point here, this is kind of a peak. So this is where the driveway starts, and it pitches to the north, because that's the way the topography goes. And so this portion of the driveway will have runoff within the buffer zone. And what we've done in that area is down in here, we've put a rain garden in here. So this will be a rain garden off the edge of the parking lot, so all the runoff that comes down the driveway, not parking lot, the driveway will go into the rain garden, and it's an infiltration garden, so that water, it will capture the runoff, and it will infiltrate it in that area, and it will have plantings appropriate to that type of low-impact development element. Approximately we're altering about half an acre on this 2.5 acre lot. Maybe about a third, 0.3 acres will be impervious, and that's what I'm talking about within the buffer zone now. And that's about a 14% impervious on that area. And I think that's it.
Is the second, you got two lots here. Are there two lots now, or are you making two lots?
So we will be making two lots, but we're not, the only thing, I should have been clearer, the only thing we're proposing on Lot 1 is to knock the house down. So there's no other activity proposed on Lot 1 within the buffer zone. And actually, I show that as riverfront. That's a mistake. The riverfront runs perpendicular to the spillway, so really, none of this lot is in the riverfront. But we showed it as such. It's within 200 feet of that. So, but it doesn't matter. It's in the buffer zone, and we're going to knock it down and just grass it over at this time. Now, someday, there'll probably be a house there, but not today. We're not asking for that. It's not part of this application.
So right now, there's only one lot,
Right now, this is one parcel of land.
and it's
And
being
we're-
divided.
And we're going before the planning board as we speak. Actually, our hearing is a week from Thursday, is our first meeting.
Parcel A.
So that is what, that would be, you can look at it and go, oh, that's a road. But what happens is when we ask the planning board to waive the construction standards, so we don't have to build these big boulevards, one of the conditions is you cannot ask for that road to ever be accepted as a town way. So what we do is we call that a parcel, we don't call it a lot, and we call it a parcel, and we call it non-buildable, and then we convey it. In this particular case, we'll convey it to Lot 2. So Lot 2 will own Lot 2, and he'll own parcel A, and it'll be his responsibility to maintain that forever. The town will have no
Yep, okay.
requirement to do that.
Can you show again where the 100-foot
Sure.
line is? It wasn't clear on the drawing when I
Yeah,
was reading.
let me
through
zoom in better. So here, I usually put it in red dots. So here's the 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, and then down 100, 100, 100,
Okay.
100. And it's because it's, it's a peninsula, so really the vast majority of this lot
Okay, yep.
is within the buffer zone.
Have you thought about turning the house? So there's
I
not
haven't
so
thought
much-
about it at all. This is, we've spent a aggravating amount of time placing this house, moving it,
The entire house is in the 100-foot buffer zone.
pretty much, yes. But it's faced so it looks,
Yeah, no, I
North.
understand why, yeah.
we do have our DEP number. There were no comments from the DEP when they issued that number.
So Bill, where's the limit of clearing? And I read that the first thing you would be doing is cutting down all the trees and leveling out that whole area?
Yeah, so this is the limit of clearing. The dotted line we listed here, so the dashed line is limit of clearing. We're not putting any, silt socks in that area just because it's not necessary. And then along the edge here, the 25-foot no disturb would be the other limit of clearing. And then so that's the look.
So all the trees would be cut and then the whole thing would be leveled?
Well, where the house is going to be, what we've tried to do, the elevation up there, I know it's hard to read. Let me zoom in a little bit more. So, I know it's really hard to read. So this is elevation, roughly in here is about elevation 250 feet above sea level. And you can see this top of foundation is 250. So what we've tried to do is, and this is a ridge. Again, I hope we do a sidewalk. I'd like to do a sidewalk. I think it's important to get a picture of this, looking at the plan, I mean. But this is a ridge right through here. So this is elevation 250, goes down a little bit, 248, and then 247. So we've placed that house on the ridge, just so that in that area we can minimize the amount of grading that we have to do. So we're probably going to take it down maybe around the house, it'll be around elevation 249, 248. So you can see, right now it's 247 to 250. We're not moving a lot of dirt to change the grade around there. And that's what we've tried to do. So over here, well, we have the 25-foot, but we have a little wall in this area here, a little stone block wall to not, grade out. This area here, you can see, is pretty much left the same. There's no heavy lines that show grade changes. So what you're going to see here is the foundation will have more reveal, but you can see it's 248 already, 247, 246, 245. It drops a little bit there. Over here, we're creating, in this area that I'm outlining, this is elevation 246. This is a flat area that will be made by grading, and that will be because we're cutting this down up here. And then over here, there's some grading to put the pool in, but you can see the pool is about elevation 249, which is this grade right here. Again, we're trying to hit the grades. It's good for the environment, but it's also good for the owner because, the less dirt he has to move, it's less expensive and it fits in better. So in here, this is elevation 247. Again, we're only changing this grade in here about a foot. Back here, it's different because around the side, you can see we're cutting through these grades here. So this is 249, and this is 248, 249, 250, 247. So it might be 2 feet of grade change in here. Again, we're trying to maintain the grade. But Jane, you're right. There's not going to be a lot of trees being saved in this area here. We're trying to save them around the perimeter. I mean, we go out there and take a look at it, and we look at sites. Personally, I didn't see anything it's a lot of pine, which I think I hate it, I'm a homeowner, but pine, is a lot of big pines. So we can look at trees out there and say, this looks, I've actually laid out the house, so we can go out and look at it. And then we can say, well, this is a nice tree, if it is, and we can, let's locate it and see what we can do with it. We can do things like that out there. But I didn't really see anything, like there's some sites you go on, it's like a beautiful beach or maple or something like that. I didn't really see anything out there. But we can do a site walk and you can think.
Well, I sent you my comments.
I did.
So I
saw it.
should read my comments out loud so people know my concerns.
Yep, thank you for, Jane sent me your comments the other day. Thank you.
Yeah, so as currently configured, the vegetated buffer zone is not adequate, in my opinion, to protect the interests of the act of the bylaw based on wetland science and law. The following info was included in my agent's report. This was my email to Bill, actually. I'll cut that part out. The proposed house should be reconfigured, this is my opinion, preferably along the length rather than the width of the peninsula in order to keep all grading and site work farther away from the site's steep slopes. To prevent erosion and preserve the pond's water quality, the width of the waterfront's vegetated buffer strip should be increased to push proposed alterations farther away from the peninsula's steep slopes. Shading to denote steep slopes along the waterfront should be added to the plan and then avoided. All trees 8-inch DBH, what is that? Whatever, that,
Diameter, breast height.
diameter at breast height, thank you, or greater, in the 100-foot buffer zone proposed to be removed should be added to the plan. A wildlife habitat evaluation should be performed for this environmentally sensitive site. And then I ask that you revise the notice of intent, page 3, and resubmit that. And since the site has steeply sloped topography, please confirm that the plan's buffer zone distances are planar distances, planar, however you say it, measured along a single elevation. And there's all sorts of science that backs up wider buffer zones. I actually have a book that cites that. It's this thick, from the Mass Association of Conservation Commissions. This is a very narrow buffer on a peninsula, so basically everything is being altered. A lot of impervious surfaces. That's my opinion. And the commission can pick up from there.
I think Jane has some good points. I think some things, of course, we agree and we disagree, and some things we can talk together and work on. I think it's really important to do a site walk.
Agreed.
Before we get into it, I think, I don't usually push you to do that, but I think this is a really important one. It's very important to see it. So, we can leave some of these things to after that, or we can discuss it at that
Bill,
point.
how long is this site? So I know, I'm familiar with some people that live around there, and I've been keeping an eye on this house. How long has the property been in its current state? That it's not been, it's been quite a while, right?
I think decades.
Right, yeah.
I have plans.
As long as I've
Somebody
been here.
came and, a long time ago, somebody was asking me about this. I think it was back in the 80s. So I don't know if the house was abandoned at that point, but
But even, that's the front of the lot, that's not the back part where you're proposing anyway.
is that what you were asking, Peter?
Well, so it's all included, right now, it's one parcel. So, to your point, to Jane's point, we don't know what's back there. So I agree, we should
Yeah.
definitely do a site walk, but I can imagine that there's some critters that are, have made a nice home back there.
Right. Yep, and we can talk about
Yeah,
the requirements of wildlife habitat and what triggers it and things like that. And
as you've gotten drawn, the thing that I'm concerned with for the most part right now is the steep slopes on the two sides. You've got 3 to 1
sure,
there, which is, you're grading into that and
Yeah.
providing, as Jane mentioned, providing, much reduced time for infiltration.
Right, but in that particular case, again, we have taken, infiltration is being handled through roof drain runoff like we normally do, and from the pavement, it's going through a rain garden, so that's how we've tried to address that. We can talk about, when we go out and look at it, I know, even myself, when I look at a plan, I go, oh, wow, 3-to-1, or whatever the slope is, and you look at it and you go, wow, that's bad, and then you go, and then you walk it, and you see, oh, okay. And what I'll do too, just to give us some feel for this, I'm gonna go out and set some grades on these stakes too. So like that pool, I'll give you a stake on that pool and I'll set the 249 grade. So you can see, okay, what's that, what does that mean? And then same with the house, on the corners that we set. I think there's like 20 corners. I didn't set every one, but I set, the ends, the corners, and then some in the middle. And again, we'll do the same thing. We'll set the grade so that you can look at it and go, oh, all right. And then maybe what we'll also do is, you tell me what you want. I think maybe what we'll also do is flag the 25-foot. We have to do it anyways at some point.
Right,
So
right.
what we can do is mark that out now, and then you can get a feel, again, for distances, what it looks like, slope distances and things like that. And then we can talk better about issues and how to address them.
Is, is the garage just a garage, or is there any living space as part of that?
That's a garage.
Okay.
And
You
then,
understand my question?
and then to the left, as you look at that, as you look at this to the left,
Yep,
upper left, that is like it's kind of a separate living area. So it's, if like a visit, it's not an in-law apartment because it doesn't have cooking facilities, but it's a bathroom and a bedroom and stuff. So that area there, but yes, that's a garage. And then the main house is big, but it's 1 story. But even if it was 2 stories, it would be big. So
Right.
it's a lot of square footage.
yep. Yeah, no, I was just thinking with the garage, if there was a way to move the garage to the front and move the house more to the middle, what the comments are, so. At least that moves, tries to alleviate some of the, and maybe provide a bigger buffer area on the sides where the steep slopes are. But as you said, I think everybody here agrees getting out on the site is probably the first step, the next step.
Ask for comments. We get comments from
Are we all
Anything else?
question?
Anything else right now?
Excuse me?
Anything else?
Anything else?
It's all in front of you.
Yep, no,
Okay, all right, no.
yep.
Now we're ready to listen to any comments or questions from the general public. As I said before, raise your hand, stand up, give your name, address, but then please come down to the mic. Jeff?
It's Paul Hainsworth. My address is 10 Woodland Road. Walk the mic. I'm going up the mic. I'm going. You told me to stand there. Here I am. Check 1, 2. One thing that hasn't been addressed, and I very much appreciate Ms. Pierce's comments. I agree with all of them that the buffer zone on that peninsula would ideally be a little more than the 25 feet. That, according to the plan, this is going to be clear-cut. The end of the peninsula is basically clear-cut, all trees gone, with just 25 feet there, and certainly would hope to be able to see those stakes not move. But, so I agree with that. I appreciate that. One of the things that's of concern to the Cocasset Lake Association members, especially those with kids like myself, our kids use the beach, and the beach is directly across from the northeast corner of this, of the peninsula. Currently, as the plan shows, we are going to have, everyone on that beach is going to have a view of the pool and the house. So it's, you'll see it through, I'm sure, scenically trimmed trees. So that is, I don't know if that's a concern of the commission. It's certainly a concern of the neighbors and everyone who uses the association beach. So I wanted to make, just put that out there as another reason why reconfiguring the house, putting the garage at the front, I think would be a great advantage to maintaining a good view of the lake. You're up on it is a very high in the middle of the peninsula, but also, and I understand the desire to have all that view. It's a beautiful view. But that would be my, I do agree with those comments. I look at this clear cutting and say, you know, that 25 feet it's not that much. And it certainly is not going to stop everyone from seeing that who's out on the lake or, again, families using the beach. So that is my comments. Thank you very much.
Is there anybody else, please?
Hi, Julie Pritchard, 7 Woodland Road. So, and forgive my ignorance, but I'm looking at this and it says that you want a variance of 100 feet from where 200 feet is required, and everything on this building is already within 100 feet. 200 feet basically overlaps. Why would you consider cutting it back that far if 200 feet is safe? And we're not even getting 100 feet for variance on where the septic is and where the building is. I'm not sure why that's
So
acceptable.
that's a planning board,
Board of Health.
Board of Health,
Board of Health,
sorry, yeah.
yeah.
That,
Okay.
so that
So that's
doesn't
not
apply to us here.
Okay,
That's a Board of Health.
Okay.
question. But yeah, so
Okay.
Bill can talk to that in a minute.
okay. And my second question would be, if, as the Board of Health requested that you reposition the septic somewhere else further down the property, and you pointed out down maybe into the other lot area, that's going to have to require more clearing. So the clearance zone that's shown right now may not actually be the end clearance zone, right? It may require a lot more than that if they have to move the septic a distance away. So I just wanted to point that out.
Just to clarify what Mr. Buckley said earlier, is that the location of the proposed septic system now is within or about 100 feet, but the bylaws, Board of Health, you got to be 150 feet away from bordering vegetated wetlands. So they're going before the board, or they've talked to them about either getting a variance because of the type of the septic system they're putting in to reduce nitrogen loading, or relocate it further away from bordering vegetated wetlands. So those are two alternatives that he explained. And by the conservation laws require septic systems to be 150 feet.
Yeah, but the Board of Health is really the one who
Right.
says,
Right.
Yep.
Just as Mr. Chairman, as a clarification, even though we'll be moving it further away, and it will probably be 150 feet, it will still be a nitrogen reduction system. It's
Right,
not, it's
right,
not
you
either
said.
or. It's
Right.
going to be both, in this, if it goes the way I think.
Yeah, you had said that earlier, so it's, yeah.
I have one little question, Bill. Part of your opening comments was that the new landowner really wants to be able to have a view of the lake. And with the trees from the steep slopes coming up, she's not gonna get a clear view from on the patio and the pool and stuff like that.
No, not going to get a clear view.
So is there intention to already increase the amount of cutting of trees or trimming them up so they,
I think
that
that's,
25-foot zone?
I think that's why we want to, we're showing clearing down to the 25-foot no disturb zone. You're still going to have, it's still going to be at least roughly 50 feet from the limit of clearing to the edge of water. Looking down there, you can see the point. You see it? So you can, so it's not just 25, it's going to be 50. And no, we're not proposing any clearing. We're not proposing any alteration within the 25, except for the path to the dock.
and how wide is that path?
I'm sorry?
How wide is that path?
6 foot.
6 foot.
I
crushed
would
stone.
ask that when you're looking into reconfiguring, you would make it narrower and more winding, because a straight path down to the water is not good for pollution prevention. Everything just rips down.
Well, like what, how narrow? You gotta,
3 feet.
you still gotta schlep a
3 feet.
canoe and stuff.
3 feet's fine.
I think that's,
It's even an exempt minor activity, I think, to have a little less than 3 feet.
well, we
But
could talk
3
about
feet,
that. I think 3 feet's pretty minimal. I mean, 3 feet, this is 3 feet. So you're carrying a canoe or a kayak on a 3-foot path?
all right. Well, we can agree to disagree.
Oh,
But
let's-
a
let's
straight
just-
path is a bad thing for
go look
water
at it.
quality.
Well, okay. I mean, we can look at that too. What's the best way to do it? It's really not straight. It has a curve in it, but we can mark it out. When we're out there, we can come up with the best path, what you think is. I'm not arguing, not falling on my sword on that one. We'll just figure it out.
I mean, we haven't been there, so it could be that, that may be the best place to do
Sure.
it, where it's the least, it's the most gradual. We don't, until we see it.
Yeah,
we're not-
that's what we,
Topographically, it looked like there was a dip there.
that's why we did it that way, was that, when we were out there, that looked like the best path.
I wondered
So-
if maybe the people who lived there used to use that path or something, if there was one, because it's a topo dip.
Most of the activity we saw was down here. There was an old beach, there was sand and stuff down here.
Really?
There was the remains of a dock.
Oh.
Didn't see anything up in that area there. There might have been.
So Bill, around the patio, around that side of the house and that, you're gonna clear it, and they're gonna plant grass to control the water coming off the patio?
Yep, so we took the grass, Jane gave me the name of the grass. I actually use it on my house. Jonathan Green Black Beauty.
Did it work
Which,
well?
yeah,
At the main?
yeah, it worked good. Had to lime it significantly because of all the crappy pine
Sure,
trees.
sure. I
But-
have to add more to my
Yeah.
lawn.
So that's what we're specifying in here, the Jonathan Green Black Beauty seed mix on the right, as you're looking at the plan, right, front, left. And in the front, which is facing toward Water Street, that's just loam and seed. That's grass. So yes, that's what we're proposing in those areas.
Might he consider something else for a ground cover around the house that is more adaptable to that kind of an area? It's almost like it's a Cape Cod type of thing with the sands and dry. There are plenty of ground covers that are fantastic, and you don't even have to touch them. Bearberry is my favorite.
Well, definitely wants grass in that area there, so he can go out in the front. But yeah, I don't see why not. Why can't, we can put it down, maybe not in the areas that are really tight like here, but in this area here, we have some space.
Hopefully
Yeah,
there
down
won't be any
here.
tight areas once it's reconfigured.
Say again?
Hopefully there won't be any tight areas once it's reconfigured.
Hope is a good thing.
Hope is a 4-letter word.
That's a good one.
So Bill, you only show 2 infiltration areas.
Yes.
How, with the porches in front of the house and that configuration of the roof lines, where are you gonna be putting all that water?
Well, truthfully, I don't know exactly.
Yeah.
I know I'm gonna have one in the front, I know I'm gonna have one in the back, but I don't know where the gutters are. I don't know any of that yet. So, what we did is we just crunched the numbers so that, because the soils are so good, it's not like I need 20 of them. It's pure sand, so really just a couple of these galleys will do the trick. How I'm gonna tie them together, I don't know. There might be another set somewhere because there's some weird configuration of roof. I don't have that yet. But I do have to take 2 inches. I have to recharge 2 inches of rain, not a 2-inch storm, a full 2 inches. So it's a pretty significant amount of rain.
In snow removal and storage, being the way that this driveway is split and going 2 different directions. You got a rain garden over there and, the way similar, they plow, it's gonna be plowing over the rain garden, damaging the rain garden. the way you got the elevations here,
No, it's a good point.
and it's being so close to the 25-foot, but also the steep area.
Yeah. It's gonna get pushed onto the rock, the stone wall.
That's all within that buffer zone area.
Okay. Look at that.
Yeah, I mean, that's true, Dave. I thought, yeah, the normal process would be they're just gonna come straight up and push it right up next to the building.
Well,
I don't drive it that long.
Just,
yeah.
I mean, you know what I.
yeah, it depends. I mean, like, I plow out, so, from my house. But you're right. I mean, it could definitely do it. We have this all the time where we have to, tell people, not that everybody follows the rules that we give them, but we tell them, don't put snow in the drainage basins and things like that. So I had to think about that. Okay. I got the note.
And then you're doing the same thing for the grass, all along those altered slopes in the rain garden area in the back of that back corner?
To the left, to the west, to the north, to the east. It's that mix. To the south,
It'd be straight loam and
straight
grass.
loam and seeds, grass. That's what the note says over there on the right side. The bottom one.
The question that I would raise is, the planning board doesn't approve the variances for having just a driveway instead of building out the whole road. You're going to increase the amount of impervious area, and you can also have increased amount of drainage going someplace.
Yep. Yeah, if that happens, whole new ballgame. I doubt very much that will happen, but then we would have to come back with a completely different design. The water would still go to the front, because that's the way everything's pitched. You can see where it says parcel A, there's that kind of blob on top of it. That's a rock. It's rock popping
Okay, I was
out
wondering
there.
about
Yeah, it's weird, because everywhere on the site we dug is pure sand, but there's these chunks of pudding stone in different portions of the site. So that's kind of the peak. So the road comes up, and then it starts to drop back down as you're going toward the house. So everything on the road is pitching back toward Water Street, and there's a natural low area there. Again, when we do the sidewalk, you'll see it. There's a natural low area where everything ends up in that area now, and there's not even any indication of staining down there because the water goes into the ground so quickly, staining on the tree trunks. So you're right, Mr. Chairman, if that, it's a whole new ballgame, right? And that's why we wouldn't, I mean, everybody, we do this all in sequence or in parallel. You have your comments that require modification, the planning board has theirs. Maybe the Board of Health, probably not have anything to do with you or the planning board, but we want to make it all together, so at the end of the day, we have one plan that everybody's reviewed and looked at and said, yeah, that's okay. So I just hope that doesn't happen.
So along that driveway, you got, looks like a bunch of circles inside two lines. Is that a wall, or is that going to be the edge of a curving?
On the right side, so as you come
Right
up,
side,
it's
yeah.
pitched. So as you drive it, coming up from water, it's pitched to the right. And on the right side, we have a stone trench, and it's going to infiltrate the runoff
Oh,
from there.
That's a trench?
Yes. And it comes down into that low area that we were talking about. There's more detail on the other plans. I don't show it on this rendering because it has nothing to do with, it's outside the buffer, and it's, I'm trying to give you the data you need without giving you extraneous stuff. But yeah, that's a stone trench on that right side, and it goes down, and all it does is it captures the runoff, infiltrates some fraction of it, and conveys the rest of it down into that low area near Water Street.
Are there any other questions or comments from the public?
Tony Gilby, I live on 18 Prospect Street, which is just on the sort of left-hand side there where the water comes down. The water extends, I think, quite a bit further than the diagram there shows. The thing that I have the most concern about is the large trees. How many of the large trees are going to come out? And we lived here. I feel that this development is so central to the lake that you can see it from every part of the lake. And I would like to see a house there which blends into the natural environment as much as possible. And I think this can be accomplished. A number of houses around the lake already, not as large as this, are very successful at not being very intrusive to the rest of the lake, but do have absolutely stunning views of the lake. And you can do this by maintaining quite a lot of the big trees and having kind of gaps in them that look in different directions, rather than just sort of clearing it out and getting a huge 180 panorama. And I actually think the first way of doing it is actually more interesting and more attractive from the point of view of the person living in the house as well. There are major trees on this northern projection here. We have ospreys that come and sit on the top of the trees there, and it's really a wonderful place. And I'd like to see as much of it preserved as possible, and consistent with meeting the new owner's goals of having a really nice house that has great views. The parts of this building, like the patio there, is awfully close to the lake, and is that a sort of a guest cottage stuck on the corner there next to the garage? Mr. Oakley?
That is you need to talk to the chairman, but that is this area here is as I mentioned earlier, it's kind of a guest cottage, but
Yeah.
it doesn't have a kitchen or anything like that. It has a bedroom, has a bathroom.
Right. So that would, you obviously want to be able to see the lake from that building too.
I think that's his major goal, is to be able to look north on the lake, and which is why he's laid the house out the way.
I'll make another point that we have a very similar aspect, and it's further down to the left, but it faces north.
You need to talk to the chairman.
Yeah, can you speak into the microphone?
So I'm looking at the map, actually.
Speak into the microphone, please, too.
Well, it's a very exposed spot too, and the north winds and the northeasterlies come down the long fetch of the lake and really will hit the end of this peninsula. And I think that's another good reason to retain quite a bit of the trees that are there, just in order to provide a windbreak. Otherwise, it's going to be a very bleak spot in any kind of weather. So those basically my concerns. I'd just like to see it blend into the environment as much as possible, and to preserve the very attractive state that Cocasset Lake is now, where it's not an overdeveloped lake, and how we do have I don't really need to say any more. I think that's essentially what I'm concerned about.
Bill, and David, I have one more question. You say it's one-level living, so is it going to be a slab, or will it be a walkout basement?
It will have a basement, but it won't be a walkout.
It won't be a walkout basement? Okay, thanks.
One thing that's noted about buffer zones is that they are critical for wildlife habitat. And being that this whole area of clearing is most of it's in the buffer zone, might be a consideration determining what the wildlife habitat is and if there's anything of concern in or around that peninsula. Because
Particularly Osprey.
once you open this up, you also open up to extreme heat with clearing, and you change everything, especially along the edges of the 25-foot, no cut zone, but here you got a sheer forest, sun beating against it, so anything that has good habitat protection or food supply, whatever, even if it's down a steep slope, will be impacted.
It's true. I mean, everything has habitat except for concrete and asphalt and things like that. So I think the Wetlands Protection Act is pretty good about laying out when a wildlife habitat evaluation is appropriate. And in this particular case, we're not altering any resource areas. That is normally the trigger for it, because you're altering a resource area. And then that would be a trigger, whether it be bank, riverfront, floodplain, trying to think of the other things, BVW, but in this particular case, we're not altering any of them. So you can make that argument up on almost any site, because any site provides some type of habitat for some things. But let's go out and look at it, and then we'll discuss it after we've looked at the site.
That's the state. The state is known to have the minimum standards of protection for the resource areas in the interests of the act. The bylaw protects wildlife habitat and their performance standards and things that it talks to about hollow logs, hollow trees and things like that. So under the bylaw, the commission has discretionary authority under either anyway. But if they believe that it should have one, then under the bylaw, it would be completely appropriate.
Okay, we can talk about that. Just, sometimes we just agree to disagree.
We usually do, Bill.
But I'm not disagreeing in this particular case yet.
Well, there are all sorts of studies about buffer zones, and the wider the buffer zone, the better. And when he said a north-facing slope, it didn't even occur to me. I had a cottage on a north-facing slope on a lake up in New Hampshire, and the north wind that blew through there was really cold. And if you have a buffer that's going to be only 25 feet wide of trees, those trees are going to be weakened, and they might. This is all about holding together the edge of the water, the shoreline, and all that sort of thing. So it's really pretty critical because once that's gone, there's no getting it back easily.
Right. But we also have a regulation that we have to follow, and it's 25 foot, and
Discretionary authority.
it's 25 feet.
Specific things like steep slopes and such,
Does it-
based on science.
There's nothing in the regulation or bylaw or town meeting when that was put in that said anything like that. It was just 25 foot. So, again.
We can
we
agree to
just-
disagree.
We just follow the regulations and try to do the best we can. And I'm not saying that we're not going to make changes here. I just,
Bill, the only reason you're in the 100-foot buffer zone is purely for view, is that right? The other land here is still buildable or usable if we were to turn?
well, you could,
There's no issues that restrict you from turning it, is what I'm asking.
no. No, not that no, I can do anything with money, so in this particular case, yeah, you could turn the house 90 degrees. That's not what the homeowner wants.
Okay.
Anything else?
Come up with a date?
Any other, yep.
So John Snow, 2 Allen's Way, right off Prospect. This is not a direct question or challenge. Speaking only for myself, I've been waiting for someone to, I thought, resurrect that house that was there, not tear it down, but, that's their land, their business. But I'm looking for clarification. I may be able to do the research on the website of the town and figure all this out. So I apologize if I'm wasting your time, but could someone just give me a really quick rundown? You talked about the Planning Board, the Health Board, and the Conservation Commission, and who's calling the shots? Because at the end of the day, I can tell that, I'll describe the gentleman to my left, David, is it? No contention here, but he wants to, he's doing a job for a client, right? And so he's trying to get certain concessions or get the building that the client wants. We would actually like, I believe that Cohasset Lake Association would like to have good relations with the neighbor, right? Why wouldn't we? I'm just trying to figure out, what do each of these boards, without going into great detail, who's doing what? Someone said, well, that's the health department, right? About the septic. We here are concerned about the conservation of the lake, which happens to be in the charter of Cohasset Lake Association, which is to maintain a pristine lake, all right? And then we've got the planning board. Who gets final say on what happens here?
Do you want me to answer?
Is there a simple answer to that?
I can answer it. Probably simpler is the simplest. So the planning board will have jurisdiction over the creation of the driveway for the first several hundred feet, and which would create the 2 lots. That's what they would be talking about. The Board of Health is, all they have jurisdiction over is a septic system. And the Conservation Commission has jurisdiction over any activity that's within 100 feet of the wetland. So everybody has their slice of the pie. It is not an easy process to navigate, but it's just the way it is. There's at least 3 boards in this particular case that will have jurisdiction over those different things that I just laid out.
And
then the Board of Health and the Conservation Commission have sort of, I would say, parallel relationship here, because they're both related to the water quality, but for different reasons.
but once it's built, it's built.
Right.
And things change over time. Anybody who's been a homeowner knows that stuff gets done that maybe was never intended. So I'm just trying to understand how this all works. Could someone give me a general time frame of how long this process is? Because, I got a letter in the mail and said, oh, wow, somebody's bought the property and wants to put in a house. So I know you can't promise me. I'm just asking, what's the general time frame that we're looking at?
I can tell you Wetlands 101. Now, I do know that the planning board, whenever they receive some filings like this, they send it around to all of the department heads, including the fire and police, and they say, do you have any comments? So that's the first step, basically. The commission approves all the wetland lines. When a notice of intent application for a wetlands application is filed, the commission has 21 days to open the hearing unless the applicant gives permission to waive that 21-day requirement. When the commission asks for additional information, as they have tonight, this will be continued until any additional information has been provided, but I suspect it would be continued to the next meeting. And if the information seemed like, let me put it this way, overcoming the presumption of significance of all of these different resource areas, the bordering vegetated wetland, the water, and all that sort of thing. If he doesn't overcome the presumption of significance for all these areas and the contributing project's impact on those areas, based on the information that's been submitted, the commission will review that, and then they'll decide whether to approve or deny it.
Probably by the next meeting, you said.
Not necessarily. It can be continued with the applicant's permission, especially if additional information is requested or if they need to take longer time to do something that the commission asked and they agree to do it. When they've submitted everything, the commission will usually close the hearing, and then an order of conditions is issued within 21 days of the close of the hearing. So if everything is done according to the requirements of the laws and that sort of thing, it can be very quick. Hopefully it will be.
So last question. Where are we to look for ongoing information? Because now we've been notified. I doubt that the town's going to keep sending us letters
No.
every time.
They won't.
So how do we stay abreast of everything that's going on? Just keep our eye on the website?
No,
or-
that's a good question. So tonight, this will be continued to a specific date, so you'll know when the date is, and it's not going to be legally, it won't be, the agenda isn't posted till Thursday before, but if they make the decision to do that, it will be continued to that date unless an extension, a continuance is requested, in which case it'll show up on the agenda on that Thursday before. And then all the information that we have is public, you know, it's public record, so you can come and look at it anytime you want. And I think Diana usually posts ongoing projects on the website. Is this posted at the top of it or anything?
I kind of started slacking off on that since we're meeting in person again. But I can put it back on the website.
Well, you've got a lot of interest here.
So we do have a link. We do have a link on the website, and she'll post this.
Okay.
And we will not be sending you things because it's just, you know, it's the public hearing. And this is the fishbowl. You know, you have the opportunity to watch and participate in anything, well, watch anything that happens, participate if the chair lets you. So,
Well, for my part, thank you for the clarity of the presentation, and thank you to the Conservation Commission, so.
Sure thing.
thank you.
So, I mean, I have a question. I'm not sure if you're the person to answer that. I mean, you mentioned, you brought up the association.
Yeah.
Does the association have any bylaws, rules that govern anything on any building on the properties?
I will have to get back to you on that. So I'm the secretary of it. I'd have to
Okay,
go
yep.
through it a lot.
Yep.
I'd have to go through it and confirm, but I don't believe, off the top of my head, I don't believe that we have anything in the bylaws about building on the land around it, because we don't own that land.
Right, I get that, yeah.
Yeah, we own
I
the
get that.
bottom of the lake and the dam,
Yeah.
so, okay.
Okay.
Do we have any other comments or questions?
Just a neighbor, John Hage, 18 Woodland Road. Across from it, just a little history from the lake's perspective. As an association, we are quite concerned with the health of the lake and the look of the lake, and that's something that's gone back since its founding. So historically, the beach area was donated by a member of the lake. The peninsula that's almost identical to this across the way is also positioned in a way from the previous owner so that can't be built on to preserve the integrity of the lake. And so when we're talking about buffer zones around housing, that's going to be built within 25, 50 feet of the lake, that's something that is of importance to the whole lake. And this particular site, as Tony mentioned, is one that is viewed not only from the street, but by everybody on the lake. It's probably very unique in that regard. So that is something I hope that is taken into consideration when whatever decisions are made.
Might I suggest something? I'm really intrigued by Tony's talking about the ospreys that like to use that tree. If you have any photos of ospreys or eagles or nesting special animals,
One came, caught a fish, and then
send us photos if you have any.
Do you have any?
well, I think it's such a bad picture that it's no good. It was really going quite dark at the time. So,
Well, things like nests and you know, animal type things like dens and that sort of thing can be considered important wildlife habitat. You know, if it has it, it has it. If it doesn't, it doesn't. It's all about all of this stuff is based on science and scientific studies and that sort of thing, so. Any additional information, any comments, just send it to us in writing. That'd be great. I like a paper trail. It's good for the record.
And to be clear, so species include, like you're saying, nesting ospreys and such, turtles, amphibians, any, whatever wildlife you guys see around there or that inhabit that area. That's good information to have.
We're saying, we've got pictures of turtles?
Any information on any wildlife in that area?
Oh, I know about the turtles. It's the nests of the.
Well, you said Sandy Beach. My ears perked up. I was
Oh,
like,
yeah, okay, never mind. So shall we have
You need
a
the-
date
you need a
for
date,
a
right?
site visit
Yeah.
for the commission?
What you got, Bill?
When do you
Whatever's,
think?
what's convenient for you. I'm available this weekend, Saturday. I'd prefer not to work on Sunday.
No weekends. I have to go too,
It's a holiday
unless
weekend.
I can go all alone.
Oh, I don't
What?
care. I mean, if it's
Halloween?
during the week, I'll do
Well, it's
whatever
a
you
holiday
want.
weekend.
Yes, it is, come to think of it.
Well, I'm going to be out 7th through 11th, so I'm not here.
Tomorrow.
The sun's supposed to come out on Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Have you got everything staked out?
I already have the driveway staked out. I have the house staked out.
What about the pool?
Probably not, I wanted to set some grade stakes for you. What else do you want to see? You want to see the 25-foot no disturb sign? So probably not this week is not going to be doable.
And the pool, too, if you
And the
could.
pool.
Yeah,
I think the limits of clearing in relationship to the grade.
yeah.
Yeah, I think the limits of clearing will be the most important part, which is basically along the 25-foot buffer,
Pool,
right?
limited clearing, 25-foot no disturb. Put some grades. What's the other thing?
Peter, ask if you want to go out
The
there by
dock.
yourself anytime. You should be able to.
Okay? Anything else?
Are you doing a lot of clearing to get that long driveway in? Is that already open area, or?
No, there's no open area in
Oh,
here,
it's all
but we've
wooded.
already laid out that driveway, so that's
Okay.
what to lay that out to.
Okay.
And then could you set up a couple stakes where roughly the 100-foot buffer is? Doesn't have to be a lot of them, but it gives us a little bit better idea.
Yep. What day? It's,
Pick a day next week. Monday's a holiday, right?
Yep.
For some of you.
Hmm?
For some of you. Some of us don't get that day off.
It's about a 2-hour thing, hour and a half.
that's,
Hour and a half.
yeah, that's probably be, it's not that big. I mean, we're gonna stand in one spot and see a lot of it. Once you go up on that ridge, it's pine.
Can
So
we
it's
all-
not like there's not a lot of pucker brush in there. It's just pine, it's a pine grove.
Can we pop by as we can, as time allows?
I'd prefer if you would call me and I would be there with you.
Without having our hands held? Because actually, when you sign the notice of intent, you say you grant permission to the commission to go out
We
there
grant permission we grant permission for reasonable access
during reasonable hours.
during reasonable hours. And
Yes.
so I just want you to let me know if you're going to be there. And if I want to be there or not, I'll let you know, or the
Yeah,
owner.
because sometimes it's easier just to kind of think your own little thoughts if you're by yourself, and especially when I'm looking at wetlands lines and things like that, it helps not to have a lot of people talking and stuff. I'm often off to the
I'm not a
side
big
anyway.
talker. I know you guys hear me yak constantly, but I'm telling you, if you ask people who know me, I am quiet.
I see Bill periodically walking down the street and I see nothing but his, no, I'm kidding. Watching a baseball game.
Quiet. That's right, I watch my nephew, right?
Yep.
But yes, I would prefer if you would just notify me, please.
The biggest thing is that if we're going to have 4 people attend.
I mean, I think we should
as
do a site
post
visit
it.
anyway, yeah. I mean, I prefer I like going out with the other members, because then we can ask questions and feed off one another a little bit. Not that we're
No
making
decisions, though, of
we're
course.
asking
No
questions.
decisions, of course.
No
no,
decisions, we're
just
asking questions
gathering
about
information.
things. Yes, correct.
So we're looking at the week of October 11th,
Yeah, I just can't do Wednesday
same.
morning anyways.
Yeah, I was thinking Thursday afternoon.
Thursday would work.
Thursday's fine with me.
So when are you gone?
Thursday, the 14th,
When are you gone, though?
7th to 11th,
7 through 11.
so this weekend.
I think might not be a bad idea to have a rain date as well, since we seem to be wanting to have a lot of rain around here these days.
No kidding.
Well, we can get wet. I'm like a melt.
Speak for yourself.
It's not pouring.
Yeah.
Is there a
So
lot
the
of poison ivy
14th,
or-
what
No,
time?
I don't think.
I have a noon meeting on the 14th, so if we could do it like 2 or
Yeah,
later.
that's fine.
That's good.
I was gonna say afternoon would be better for me, yeah.
Okay. So October 14th at 2 o'clock.
Yep.
Okay, Bill, we need permission from you or your client to continue this hearing
Yes.
in writing, if you could possibly have that occur this week.
I will send Jane an email right now.
Yeah, but just saying it as well, it can be reflected in the minutes. I like your idea of having a paper trail in the
Yep.
record, but you can get a verbal continuance as well. Yes, please?
Are you looking for the next meeting or? after?
Yes, when is the next meeting? Because my schedule is horrible
18th.
for the next month. I have a hearing that night in Franklin.
November 1st is the next one after that.
I have a hearing that night, too.
So it's going to take a little while then, huh?
No, my schedule's horrendous.
Then November 15th is town meeting, so that's no longer a meeting night. So the next meeting after that wouldn't be till after Thanksgiving, the 29th.
29th?
We had one on the 15th, but then special town meeting kicked us out.
Right. All right, so it's the 18th.
October 18th, November 1st, November 29th.
How about November 1st, please? I'll push off my other meeting.
All right. So I'll make a motion to postpone,
Oh,
to continue 31 Water Street, 157610 to November 1st.
Second.
Roll call vote? Rich?
Aye.
Rebecca, aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for attending and listening, and
And while I have all you here, I have a tab on the website that's called Lakefront Living. It's got all sorts of great ideas and clues and how to have an environmentally sound lakefront area. I, too, have lakefront property, and it's really, no one in their right mind wants to ruin their lake water quality. But a lot of it's education. A lot of people simply don't know that beautiful green lawn that you fertilize is making all sorts of problems, that kind of
Not
thing.
in a bad way, just,
I know, yeah. Got a soapbox.
What's that?
yep.
Yay, Tony. Well, check out my website, though. I put all my favorite things on it. It's called Lakefront Living. Excuse me? The Conservation Commission page. Yes.
Yep.
There, Joe.
Don't worry about it.
What?
No, it was a good meeting.
I was thinking about it, Julie.
What are you saying?
But
What are you
should
saying?
try
You're asking me what I'm saying.
and- I know he's been talking to,
they start working on
I said, good for Tony. You educate them every year.
raise the mic, all right?
They shouldn't have been given permission to do it, unless they're gonna do it all at the same time. I have.
We'll see.
public information, his phone number.
And it doesn't make any.
Well,
you have the right to do
unfortunately, we don't
Yeah, so
protect
look at the
those
cover sheet.
And it's like, there's very little, this whole thing, whole house is almost within
resource
100
areas
foot
and that sort of thing, so. Here,
And that's
President.
not going anywhere. It's so deep down there that even if that pond let go, it would be assumed by the lower level.
Knowledge is power, right?
Well,
It's not a
Oh, look, he's
dangerous
he's
pond.
doing the baby thing.
Contact him,
Yeah, I'm
tell him
not-
you have issues.
Bye.
I'm gonna be telling him, of course. Mr. Chair will come up with something. Oh, excellent. I mean, it was,
But I'm sure I'll hear from my neighbor once they start
you don't know what else.
They have a direct view.
You're welcome.
I don't think they're aware of anything. Or
Something different, yeah, no, that's a bad example.
the extent.
All right.
7:10 PM, open a public hearing with regards to pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, Wetlands Protection Act, and Foxborough's Wetlands Protection Bylaw, Chapter 267. Conservation Commission will open the public meeting on Monday, October 4th, 2021, at 7:10 PM in the Gala Meeting Room, Foxborough Town Hall, 40 South Street, or via Zoom, on a request for determination of applicability filed by G Green Properties LLC for construction of a 3,240 square foot addition with associated grading at 5 Springbrook Road, Assessors Map 94, parcel 18, within 100 feet of a wetland resource area. The application is available for public inspection at the Conservation Office at Town Hall, Monday through Thursdays, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. This notice can also be found in the Massachusetts Newspapers Publishers Association website. Mr. Buckley.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to try and zip through this, hopefully. So, again, good evening. For the record, my name is Bill Buckley from Bay Colony Group. I'm representing G Green Properties. And as the chairman read, we've filed a request for determination of applicability for an expansion of an existing building located at 5 Springbrook Road. And I don't know if the board remembers, I know Ms. Kelly was, I don't think she was on the board at the time, but back last fall in September, this came before the commission when my client was clearing land and stuff out there, and you guys told him to cease and desist, file the notice, actually file the request for determination. You said file a notice of intent. We filed the notice of intent. We had a couple of meetings, we had site walks, and we came up with a modification that did a restoration plan for the area to the left, as you're looking at this plan, for the project site. So what this is you're probably looking at this going, why is this a request for determination when it's a building like that? Well, the reason I filed the request for determination is because this addition is basically on top of the pavement in front of the building. We're just building a building on top of the pavement. We're not going outside of the envelope, we're not doing anything. And the area, all of the work that we're proposing, that was proposed and approved under the order of conditions is still there. It's still an open order of conditions. He hasn't started. Did he contact you?
He just barely started. He said he was going to
Okay.
start.
So I met with him a week or so ago. I told him to contact Jane, to have a pre-construction meeting, make sure, he did the things the way we laid out the wall again. He knows where the plantings have to go. I went over it with him. So what this is we're not, all of that work is still to be done. It is still in order of conditions. It's still in effect. What this is we're taking that front parking lot and we're putting a building on top of it. And so there's no increase in impervious. Actually, the water runoff is cleaner because it's coming off a roof and it's going into that, that stone flared end in the front there. And there's no real change at all here, other than, instead of pavement, it's going to be building on it. The use stays the same. It's I don't know if anybody's been down there, if you had a chance. It's beautiful, the guy.
Is this the one with the old vehicle?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what he does.
Museum.
It's a museum. It's
I see
exactly
it
right.
Regularly, leaving
Yeah.
hockey at night, so.
So he goes down there. Yeah, you're right. It's right across. So you go down. He goes down there. There's nobody there. He usually has like one guy, if anybody, and that guy's job is to take in the whatever trucks he's brought in, he cleans them up and he displays them. So they're not all in the building. You go out there and you can see them all. He has them around the yard. So that's it. And that's the request for determination. I think, in this particular case, it would be appropriate for a negative determination because you've already conditioned all of the activity off to the west side, to the left, as you're looking at the plan, and to the bottom, the south side. And we continue to show that, the restoration and grain garden plan on here.
Yeah.
So that's my shtick.
And there's nothing that in the conditions that goes towards Springbrook Road. Correct?
There's nothing in your
So
conditions.
your conditions that are currently in place.
Yes.
Everything goes to the west or the
Yes.
south. There's nothing that goes to the north towards Springbrook Road
Yes,
itself.
actually, let me just throw this up, because I brought that, because I wanted to show you the plan that you approved. Can you see it?
I would suggest this couldn't be done until all the restoration is completed. And also, you say that he likes to clean up older trucks and such and then put them out?
Yeah.
What is this building going to be used for? Is it going to be for cleaning up old trucks with oil and grease and such?
Well, there's definitely oil and grease in them, but it's inside the building. They do the work inside the building, and then they clean them up and do it.
So no drains in the floor or anything like
No
that?
floor drains. Nope, this was built before. Right now, you can never do this. It used to be that you didn't have to have floor drains. I don't know why, but in this particular case, there's no floor drains. So there would have to be a holding tank. There's no holding tank out here. And Jane, I have no problem with that condition, because he's gonna go out there now, he's out there now doing these changes. So if you want, that condition was he can't build the building until he
So
does.
this was just going to be a building with some pretty trucks and stuff outside because he liked pretty trucks and stuff. But now if it's going to be used for restoring old
It
trucks and
always
stuff?
was. He
What?
always was. He always was. He brings the trucks in there,
That wasn't our understanding.
cleans
Not
them
mine
up.
anyway. Was yours?
Was, yeah.
All right.
and he
Never
cleans them
mind.
up. He doesn't rebuild engines and stuff. It's not like they're rebuilding, but he
He's
cleans
restoring
them up.
stuff, right?
Yeah.
Didn't know he did it
Body
there.
work.
I knew he liked to put things out
No,
there. I
he's
didn't
doing
know-
right inside, but like that, it was an old garage, right? So he's
It was
just
an old
basically,
gar-
yeah.
No, I know.
got it, so.
It was an auto garage, and that's what it's going to continue to be. So to answer your question, Jeff, you can see this is where the activity was. These are the plantings over here on the left.
I'll take
You're not
I'll take
showing
your
it.
word for
You gotta share the screen.
Well, my memory, I
No, I'm just
can't.
saying,
No, it's
read
not
your
on the
mind.
screen.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me fix this.
that's why we're saying that, not for any other
Making
reason.
fun of me.
So why hasn't he done the restoration?
It's probably just not high on his priority list. He runs a construction company, but the guy's out there now, and he's supposed to be getting that work done.
Oh, he's
Yeah, he
working
didn't
on it
ask
now.
for a
Okay.
pre-construction site visit or anything.
He did not?
He did not. He just said, I'm going to be starting work out there, and
Well, I
He
think
met
that
with
was his
you.
way of letting you know if you want to go out there and
Yeah.
go over it with him,
right.
because I
And
already
over
have.
it and over it and over it. Hopefully, he was one of the guys that was there when we were describing it, no?
I think he was.
I hope so.
He's the guy. I don't know why I can't get this to come up. Oh, here we go. There we go, share screen.
When we had the site meeting out there, he was there.
Was he?
Yes.
There were a few different guys.
Bob. Judy.
Bob
Bob
Green
Green
is
is
the,
the
Bob's
owner.
the owner, and then the other guy, the other gentleman, I can't think of his name, hold on. Tim Connaughton, the Irish guy.
Tim what?
Oh, yeah.
Tim Connaughton. He's like the guy who does the work, and he'll be the one doing the work out there now. So this is what was approved, you can see that. So this is where the work stopped, and then the building is gonna go up top here on the parking lot.
And everything there right now is paved.
Yep,
It's not gravel?
on the left side here and on the left side of the building, it's gravel, and this is all paved. See the bituminous berm?
So the only place that they're going to be building this is not on the gravel, it's going to be on the pavement?
It'd be like, see, right, maybe in this area here, there might be like a foot or two of gravel, but That's it.
You're just gonna make that building contiguous. There's not gonna be a knee in there.
Nope.
Yeah.
No, Wyatt.
So, in your application, information on here, it went into details about snow storage and how much it built up, compaction and all that. Didn't quite get the gist of where the snow storage is going to be. We got an idea how much is being plowed.
Let's see, let me go back to that site plan. It is not on this plan. We do show it on the, I don't know why it's not on this plan. I don't know. But you're not gonna see, when this building is here, they're not gonna be plowing over into this area here. Might be plowing down in this gravel area, then the rest of it will just be along the edges, I'm sure is what I showed.
And then the building runoff, where's that going?
It goes into this drain right here, so just like now, this building right here, everything ties into this. This new building out front will tie into the front. Let me go back to this. Ties into the front, and then this goes out into a drain system in the street. So the subdivision, when it was permitted back, I don't even know when, we built one big drain system that everybody ties into. And that's it. If this was not impervious already, we would do like some recharge, but it's already impervious, so we don't need to do recharge.
Yeah, so obviously there's no plowing taking place there anymore, and all that's gonna run off into that drain.
Say that again?
So as to address David's comment, there's no more snow plowing in that area,
No,
and all that, melt off from that snow and the roof is gonna go up into the drain.
yes. All the drains go in directly into that.
Yep.
So on your sheet 5, you do have that additional information.
Oh, I do? Okay.
Yes.
Is that from the previous filing?
No, this is the one that you submitted,
Oh, okay, so that's the site plan?
site plan. And I assume that those places that have the dotted lines, the solid lines going across it are your storage areas. Is this a requirement of stormwater management now?
Yep, everybody wants to see it. Yeah, those are the areas we're talking about where the snow would go. And I think we probably talked to the guy and said, how do you plow it? And that's what he told us, he does it. Yeah, everybody wants to see snow. I mean, I totally understand it in the city, and then I also understand it when you have stormwater, that you want to tell the guy, don't put it in the basin and stuff, but everybody wants to see it now.
Okay.
So do we, I don't have any other, do you have any other, I don't have any other questions, but do we hold off on answering this until we get the restoration, or how do we just prove it and then?
We can have that as a condition. Completion and written approval of restoration.
Sure.
Yep.
He's had a year to do it. Get it done.
Well, at least it's raining now, too.
Yeah, it's warm.
Does someone want to make a motion for a negative determination with the condition that no construction activity, building activity occur until the restoration plan has been completed and inspected?
I'll make a motion
And
for a
have
negative
written
determination.
approval.
Yeah, written approval. We won't
And
vote.
approval in writing, I think, would be
Yeah.
good, just as a
Approval
paper
writing.
trail,
Yep.
even if it's just an email.
Okay.
So what do we? I'll make a motion to for a negative determination for 5 Springbrook Road, 094-018, with the condition of completing the restoration plan and an approval?
Do you know what the number of that one is?
The DEP number?
Yeah.
Yep, it's in the letter.
Oh,
So, 157576.
what is it?
157576.
576. And can you guys come in to sign the determination? Because I was thinking for some reason this was a notice of intent and it completely was working on the other big project. So I'll throw it together. I'm sure Diana probably put it together and I just didn't.
Just need someone to
Did
second.
you?
I'll second it.
Aye.
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 Great, thank you very much.
Bill?
Did he leave his number, Jane, when he called? Did Tim
Excuse me?
leave his number, phone number?
You know, I was just looking through my notes. I've got 2 notebooks. One's to-dos and one's notes. And I probably wrote it in my to-do book, but do you
Okay.
have it?
I do. Six 293-7071. Tim, I'll spell it. CONNAUGHTON.
Wow, okay. It's a mouthful. All right.
Great, thank you very much.
Thanks, Bill.
That gentleman, the guys, did you see the gentleman talking to me, the secretary?
Yes.
He said, he goes, I'm sorry, I didn't want this to be,
Contentious.
kind of
Contentious,
contentious.
yeah.
I go, you don't know what contentious is.
He's a super nice guy.
They were
That was the friendliest angry
good
people I've seen.
comments, it made sense.
Yeah, also, if that guy wants to live there for the rest of his life, he's going to want to have neighbors who like him.
Yeah, he's gonna call him. I
What?
told him to call
Good,
for Garrett.
good, good.
I didn't talk to him, so I'll get the conversation.
So does this guy have a family or anything, or is he married, or is it just for him?
Sounds like he's retiring.
I don't know, he
Single
lives in my
level.
neighborhood. Actually, Scott built his house. Did he build his house?
No, I did the garage one.
He built his garage. He was,
Shoreline Drive, right?
he lives in,
Yeah.
at the time, he moved in with his
Lived with
parents. His parents.
Passed, I believe.
Oh, have they?
The dad has, and I'm not sure about the mom.
Yeah. So I
Nice
don't,
guy, very fanatical about everything.
I've never, children or wife or husband or whatever.
Everything
Good for
goes.
you,
Come on,
Bill.
guy.
Good for you.
Being at 7:15 PM, we'll have a opening for a continued hearing, 16 Garrett, Splain Road. Notice of, from the notice of intent, bylaw notice of intent, number F2021-1, regarding the proposed construction of a single-family home grading utilities within the bylaws 100-foot vernal pool, no activity zone.
Good evening, Scott Martiniak. I'm the owner applicant. I don't have Bill's technology, but I don't really need this much, but I'll just point to it from here if we need to refer to it. I wanted to start out, I do not want to get into a he said, she said, just kind of create an atmosphere where I'm coming from. So I kind of feel like I've been villainized a little bit over the last couple of meetings, and that wasn't what I originally thought at my first voluntary appearance in front of the board prior to filing a notice of intent. So I wasn't caught doing something that I wasn't supposed to do. I called the agent and told her what I was doing. At that point in time, I was totally out of the conservation's jurisdiction, so I felt it was just a courteous, respectful call that I made. I agreed to come in front of the board. I agreed to stop work, once again, we weren't in a jurisdiction, but out of respect and a desire to work with the board, I agreed to do that. So when I left the meeting, I left with the impression that we were going to work together on this. So I went forward, I hired consultants, I've consulted with attorneys, I had Dr. Rockwood create a restoration plan. Obviously, Bay Colony represented me and did a lot of work out there. I wasn't at the meetings, I watched the meetings via Zoom and got the impression at the last meeting that the board did not like what I presented with the 40-foot area into the resource area. So with a lot of consultation, thoughts, maneuvering houses, doing all this stuff, I've kind of left with, this was Plan A, the 40-foot. So I have a Plan B and a Plan C. The Plan B, which, once again, my desire is to work with the commission. Just as a side note, I've been building in Foxboro for 32 years, and I've never been in front of the Conservation Commission in a negative way. I've always tried to work with the commission and do what I'm supposed to do in my order of conditions and whatnot. And I would like this one not to be any different. So,
Just to interrupt, is there a new plan that,
I don't have a new plan.
don't have a new plan? Okay.
Nope, I didn't want to go forward with a new plan because when I'm done with my presentation, I'm going to ask the board to either vote up or down tonight and, we close the hearing and we're done with this. And my thought was that if we agree to what I'm proposing, we can make the order of conditions subject to a new plan. But I just didn't want to go a new plan and on out, and we need another plan, and we do this and we do that. So, sitting with Bill, playing with our house and whatnot.
Yeah, you're trying to.
So this is the original proposed. This, again, was the plan that you saw last time that Bill presented to you. Once again, I got the impression that the board didn't like that. So my proposal, lessen the impact, said what if we just essentially drag this line 20 feet in all directions, which would put us 20 feet into the resource area, not 40 feet into the resource area. And I restore that additional 20 feet at the same density that John Rockwood proposed in this presentation. So in a Plan C, I would have to work outside of the resource area. And it would probably force me to, now this person would have essentially no conventional backyard. So in order to give them some kind of a backyard, what I would call an unconventional backyard, they'd have to get into, so right now our limit of clearing kind of comes up through here. I'll have to clear some of this because now the septic system's gonna have to move to the front, but kind of minimal clearing there. But if I have to try to create a backyard for them or a yard, it's gonna be grading and cutting and whatnot, and possibly back into this area if someone so desires. So that's about it. Again, I would like to work with the board, just very simply move this 20 feet, which would make me 20 feet into the resource area. Or I understand at that point, if you don't like that, that I have to pull all of my work outside of the resource area. I can get a house in here, meet zoning setbacks, and still be out of the 100-foot buffer zone, so.
Just, I mean, it's been a while since we've looked at this. What are the dash lines? Is that the road extension or where the road would be?
Yeah, so.
It's not going to be there?
It's not going to be. So if you can see the cul-de-sac here.
Yep.
That's paved and that is the end of the road.
Okay.
We have to maintain, because we are using the paper road as frontage.
Yep.
So it has to show, and it has to be a road, but it's never going to be built. So essentially, this is the area that could be cleared, and the property line drifts up in here. So this person has that area up in there. They're not limited to here. Anything that requires a setback from the road needs to be
Setback.
cognizant of that dotted line, but the actual homeowner doesn't have to worry about that dotted line in terms of yard area or whatever.
Got it.
So could you move that whole septic system beyond the 100-foot line over to your right, and then the house could move up closer to the,
We're setback, we're at the planning board setback requirement. That's why it's a long skinny system, so we can be as close as we can to the road and still get the system in, because we would not normally do a big, long, single trench like
I
that.
think Davidson, so on the right-hand side, near where the corner, keep going to the right,
oh,
is that area, is that part of the same lot?
Yes, this is part of the same lot, but we looked at that option to try to do something over there. So once again, we have to maintain setbacks on the road from planning board perspective. There's our resource area right there, the line of the resource area, so it really doesn't, I got a greater area
No,
over here.
so what if, no, so if the septic was over there, the house is over here, the septic's over there.
Yeah, once again, the septic system is not controlling the depth of the house. It's still within, we have to have 35 feet off of the edge of the road taking, right, not pavement.
Yeah.
So we have the minimal amount to get the house in. We tried to pull out, the house is minimal to that lot line, to this lot, to the setback requirement there. So it's tucked in there as tightly as we possibly can. And once again, the reason for the big, long trench is so we didn't have to move the house in any manner to get a system in there.
I thought at the last meeting that the board asked for a restoration plan before we looked at anything else.
We
that what
presented
we-
a restoration plan.
Did we? Did they? Did I miss a meeting?
I know we had the original restoration plan.
Right.
But we asked about the other, the addition,
Yeah, we've got one from June 25th.
but that's when the doctor came in?
Yes.
Oh, okay, I wasn't.
Oh, I wasn't here for that.
right. That's
Right.
what he's got up, that's what he's got right
Right.
there.
Right, he went over it in detail.
Right.
Yeah, I know
was on
that,
vacation.
yeah, Dave, so I know that we asked
That's why I'm confused.
for adding the other part as part of the plan, the restoration plan at the time.
I'm sorry, I don't recall that, but once again, if I did that, then we'd be possibly changing again. I just don't see the point in keep changing things.
Okay.
My desire would be, let's come to an agreement and then
No,
we'll
I can accept.
create
I can accept
an
that
adequate
comment.
plan
Yeah, no, I can
to,
accept that comment, I don't have a problem with that, so.
okay.
Approval not required and split it to 2 lots.
Yeah, so instead of having him do that work to put that plan together, let's, yeah. I
And
understand-
potentially change it again.
No,
and
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, so I tried to simplify it, and we basically would do it to the same density, so we just add whatever that amount of square footage would be, we'll restore to that same plan.
So we're not restoring to the 100-foot buffer zone in that version, is that right?
No.
Well, I mean, yeah, so we haven't,
It's the whole file.
we haven't made that determination yet.
Right, but that's what he's proposed.
Right, right.
So Plan A is this one here, and your backyard would be 20, 30 feet away from the 100-foot structure fence and line of boulders.
From Plan A?
Yeah, Plan A.
Yes.
Then Plan B, what you're proposing now is that you pull back that bottom green line further, closer to the house.
Right. By 20 feet,
By 20 feet?
yeah.
From the green line or from the boulders?
From the green line, from all of the green line. Essentially, let's just take this in 20 feet, all points.
So that's almost completely using, because that's 40 feet right there. From there to there, 20 feet's gonna be right about to zero.
And if you do that, there's technically less area in
Yeah.
the 100-foot area because it's going to disappear through this.
Right.
Right? If I pull it 20 feet forward, it's going to disappear. All that I'm trying to achieve here is to build a house and give the customer a reasonable backyard, someplace where he has a little bit of a backyard.
What's going to keep him from going into it in the future?
Nothing.
A deed restriction?
I mean, it's their property, so they can use that area, they just can't disturb that area, so.
Right, that's what, I mean, Jane was saying, not going, physically going there, but
Right.
not disturbing it.
Right. I don't think you can't stop them from physically going in there.
Plus, they would have to be responsible for maintaining this after 2 years. Because that's the requirement on plantings, restorations and that, you gotta guarantee 2 years' growth.
Sounds like a
Healthy growth.
logistical nightmare.
And my understanding of that too is that in the calculations that they use to come up with the density, they take into consideration 25% failure rate in that calculation, so it's already
Right, it's
over
a
planted.
75% success rate.
And now that you're going into October,
Water Street.
the
thing is
doctor
on there.
recommended starting this
Water
in
Street thing
September,
is on that website.
if I recall.
That is gonna be a difficult challenge. Again, you know how everything goes, so you gotta get all these people together. There was a lot of planning, a lot of technical, you know, I had council I was dealing with and
Must have
trying
done
to
it
set up
well.
meetings and whatnot, so we got back to this as fast as we could.
Right, because he mentioned that some of the
Should be done in the fall. And at
basic
this,
species should be removed by hand and then get rid of the wood chips.
Right.
But not to have any mechanized equipment get into this area
Right.
and compact it more.
right,
So you run out of time.
It-
Unless you get the bigger trees in, but you still have all the other underlying handwork.
right. Right, and there's nothing scheduled on my point at this point because we don't have a decision, so plus I have to deal with the horror of trying to schedule to get the work done, which, as we all know right now, you can't get anything, do anything. Who knows if you can even get the plantings because nothing's available,
Right.
from roof and shingles to toilet paper.
So we know you can't move the house because you gotta stay 35 feet away from that heavy dotted line
Yeah.
of the old road. And the septic system is where it is. The Board of Health wouldn't give you a variance on that one either. But even if you move the system over to the right, you can't move the house.
Right, exactly. It really doesn't matter, and then at that point, also where it is, we don't need anything from the Board of Health. We're not asking for, I don't believe, I might be wrong on that, but I think that this all meets regulations.
Another thing that this commission also requires is that there's some type of signage, permanent postings of significant, in this case, vernal pool area along, in this case, the 100-foot line. And like in the 25-foot no disturbance line with bordering vegetated wetlands, they put these posts in that have these little signs on it, how important it is, and you can't go in there and do anything.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
That might be
I've
a-
done them myself before, put a concrete bound with a sign on top of it, so. I mean, I would be perfectly okay with that if possibly we could work together and, you know, if we try to give a little bit of a yard area, we put them in significant areas, but, you know, that could technically go through somebody's deck or patio or something.
You've got one really nice big lot. An estate lot at the end of that road. He's not amused.
No.
Thing is, he can't put any improvements within the old road layout.
I know,
The property owner
because
can
that's where he's
use it.
getting his frontage.
Right, well, the property owner can use it, because it's part of his ownership, but the property owner,
understand.
him or property owner can't put anything permanent in there, and that's why the septic system couldn't go up there and that. Because that road, Bill mentioned, that road actually continues on beyond this property. So, in theory, paper,
Yeah, it goes out to Beach Street.
right?
Runs from North Street to Beach Street on paper.
Any other questions?
I'm not sure what we're being asked, but okay.
Well, we were asked to continue the hearing. So a couple times, what, 3 times? At least twice. We've had a site meeting, and we've had individual site meetings. So we're very familiar with the place and how some of the activities have occurred and have not, didn't stop for a while, but they have. I haven't been out there lately. So,
Hasn't been touched. Other than the tree broke off, there's a big tree that fell during one of the storms, but no workers have been in there and done
Right.
anything.
restoration plan, we requested a restoration plan, and one was submitted with the doctor also explaining in detail what he proposed for this particular upland site, which is different than being a wetland site.
Right.
And those questions were asked at that time. He explained it pretty well. And this information was submitted as part of the meeting, the beginning of the continued hearing at that time.
Yeah, I know, I mean, I know that we had asked to get the restoration plan here, and I understand that, once, depending on the decision, if the answer is, hey, we want to
Do we
stick to
have
the
a
100 feet.
restoration plan?
Pardon?
Do we have a restoration?
Yes.
plan?
We don't have a restoration plan for this. We have a restoration plan for this area.
And specifically, what is to be done, what type of plants
Right.
So
to
the
be
initial
planted.
request to have a restoration plan for the 100-foot no disturb zone was not
Correct.
applied.
So, correct, yeah. So the question, I mean, really, I guess, so part of the question is, where are we at with the 100-foot, buffer, zone? If we're sticking with that, then you would have to come back as part of the next plan for approval with that restoration plan.
So we're voting on whether we're going to agree with the modified restoration plan that he's trying to.
Well, I think at this point, we're gonna vote,
I don't have anything on paper in front of me that I'm trying to.
No, I
vote.
guess at this point, are we gonna stick to the 100-foot line, or are we gonna give him, what boundary do we want to, are we gonna accept?
And he's proposing to come in 20 feet from the back up to establish that new line, which is going to disappear right about here, just beyond the deck.
Well, I hear that he is, but he's also offering if some of this is on his back deck, so he's not really staying away from that.
But right now, the deck isn't in it.
That's fine, okay.
I realize that.
I'm not proposing to put the deck in I was just talking about the bounds going.
Right, so the plan that you have,
That's the area we're talking about, is where the bounds are going.
right, so the plan that you have is the same one that we have here.
Yes.
The discussion is how much of a backyard
Yes.
the customer is gonna get.
Yes.
So the house is the same on both of those. The house and the deck are outside the 100 feet.
Yes.
Right, yep.
This is the house with the corner right on the 100-foot?
Yep.
Yep.
Was that yours or mine?
Because he's got to comply with the sideline setback too, besides the 35 feet from here, not this line, but from this dotted line. That's why he can't move this up closer. I don't think he get a variance in this town to do that with a new house.
Yeah, there's no hardship. What's the hardship?
So I'll speak up. So I was one of the people that was not happy to have anything done inside the 100-foot buffer zone. So at this point, I'm still not inclined to allow anything done inside the buffer zone, whether it's a backyard or a deck or whatever it is. So that's just where I stand.
Yeah, I'm sticking with the 100-foot.
I have to agree too. I think that's the only place it fits. I just don't see putting a backyard in there.
Okay.
I mean, if it wasn't already wiped out, it might have been a different story, but
If that just stands, then take a vote on it, and I go to Plan C. I don't want a continuance of a hearing, I just want to close the hearing or withdraw the notice, either or.
We have to close the hearing first.
You do, and then you have to base your decision on what you have received to date and your discussions to date. So either you approve it as presented, but the most recent thing you presented, or you deny it. And if it is denied, it'll have to, if it were appealed, it would have to go to Superior Court. But the record is clear. I mean, the Superior Court reviews the administrative record, and it is very complete, and they do not allow any additional information or anything like that. And their basis for review was the commission being arbitrary and capricious. And you've been asking for the same thing from the beginning, and the history shows.
So the question that I have is, so I guess the question is, what are, if we vote, we're voting, from what we have here, we're voting to maintain the 100-foot buffer zone.
Yes.
And then the only thing, but then we also need the restoration, complete restoration plan for that.
Right, right. So basically, he's not going to submit any more information.
Right.
So based on the information you have, you can approve it or deny it. And he can appeal it.
We have to make those conclusions before we
No.
close hearing?
No, he wants the hearing closed, so you can close it. And then you would decide whether you wanted to approve or deny and what were your findings,
Right.
And if it were approved, there would be certain conditions, but you can't really condition something to come back with a plan because you don't do
Right,
that. It's
right.
not a good idea.
Right, no, that's why I was asking, so we don't have that plan.
You don't have any plan, you just have what is in front of you right now, and he is asking that you close the hearing and rip that Band-Aid off, basically. Because he's not prepared to move forward and create more plans and incur more costs.
So how do we get the restoration done?
But he was willing to either Plan B, modification of additional area that could be restored, or Plan C, restore the whole thing. He was willing to come
That's
in
verbal.
with a plan that shows that.
That is
No,
verbal.
no, that's a misunderstanding. Plan
Okay.
C would be no restoration.
No restoration?
No restoration. I've
Right.
consulted with a couple of different wetland attorneys, and that work was done prior to certification, so it wasn't in your jurisdiction at the time that work was done. It would include no restoration.
That's why I was asking that.
Well, it's going to come down to that, I guess.
This is
No.
Jim. Hey, what's up? Okay. We're in the building, we're on Zoom as well. I'm in the building. Yes. Are you in town? Okay.
He's talking to another
Yep.
commissioner that was at another meeting.
I mean, if you can zoom in, that'd be the best, or there's the call-in number. Hang on,
Oh, it's on the website.
hang on, it's on the website. No, it's not. We're not on that yet.
This thing is the worst.
Garrett's playing right now. Yeah. Yeah, so it's on the
thinking.
website, it's in the emails too. I mean, that's, yeah.
Here it is. Hey. he's
Yep,
got
hang
it.
on, I'll take a picture and send it to you. All right, sounds good.
Okay, so he's received a verbal enforcement order, and he's indicating he does not really want to comply with your requirement in that verbal enforcement order. So I believe that you have the option of issuing a paper enforcement order and recording it against the deed as an encumbrance on that deed under bylaw. None of which is going to be comfortable, period. But, you know, we're getting more and more tree removal within resource areas without your approval. And I don't really know what the answer is, but it needs to stop, and it's just
Yeah, I
becoming
got him that, so it's the,
really too much.
is that, let's see.
I can request town council's opinion on whatever is issued.
Want me to send this to you?
You got a text?
We have
Or
the
email. Either way.
Copy link.
Natural Heritage People's
Send it to,
email string and the whole bit about how and when a certification
So, send it to.
occurs, and regardless,
Okay, what's
under
this
the
one?
Wetlands Protection Act, if a property is, you know, if it's said to be certified during the hearing process, it can be
781.
protectable as certified.
801
And the
4942.
word certified, I mean, during the town meeting, it was explained that this was basically going to be the same as the states, which it, you know, it should be. The state has, it says, if it has the criteria during a site visit, during a hearing, then it can be protected as a vernal pool. He doesn't want me to say he said, she said.
Only if a notice of intent was filed prior to. It can be a presumed vernal pool under state regulations if this all occurred in the process of a notice of intent already been filed. Trust me, I have spent hours and hours and hours and hours upon the legality of all of this.
Well, what do you suggest? We can't let this happen in your town in the future. It's being, it's for a reason.
I came in here, I would like to work with the board. I like to work with the board in the past, I would like to work with the board in the future. I think that I am offering a very reasonable, I'm looking for a very small area now within the resource area, willing to restore the rest of the area. But why would I now, if I'm getting nothing from it? I have to be forced to work outside of the resource area. Why do I want to restore it? The customer can't use it, they can't do anything, why would I want to go there?
So it's not really a buildable lot,
No, it's a perfectly buildable lot.
not under the bylaw.
It is, I can do everything outside of the,
So what's going to stop somebody, just hypothetically, they build it? We even put in stakes saying 25-foot notice, or, like I said, someone puts on a deck, weeds start going, then, oh, let's turn those weeds in the grass, and then it creeps and creeps and creeps.
And it will.
So 20 years from now,
that
I see it in my yard.
can happen anywhere.
Exactly. So how do we stop it?
That's why there's 100-foot from a certifiable vernal pool.
And I can, once again, I can build a house 100 feet away from the vernal pool. I can stay completely out of the resource area. It's not like I can't do it. If I was in here and there was no way that I can build a house,
Under the state, you can. Under the bylaw, you can't.
I most certainly can. I'm showing it right here on paper.
Further with this,
It's on paper right here that there is a house. I meet zoning requirements, I meet septic system setback requirements. I am outside of the 100-foot town bylaw. It's jurisdiction. So
You're going to be able to construct that house without going into the 100-foot disturb zone?
No.
It will require me to remove and bring back material and whatnot, and we have to pump concrete by doing that, because a typical, you build ramps for the concrete trucks to get around, and in a situation like this, you use a pump truck.
Okay.
There's a finite number of vernal pools left. It's a dirty word. That's all that's left out there right now, and it's the bottom of the food chain. And 100 foot is the very, very bare minimum. And this has been disturbed, knowing full well it was in the process of being certified. During COVID, it got lost in the shuffle because the Division of Fisheries and Wildlife people had to work from home and couldn't access the VPRS system. It's a comedy of errors that is largely from COVID, but I don't see how you can do this without, saying, okay, it's okay if we tell you it's a vernal pool and you cut down all the trees, and then you say, oops, sorry. But I don't know. I really don't know what can be done about this.
So can I comment? So, one thing about cutting down the trees in the vernal pool, and the law is the law, and the law is established for a reason. So by the line of the law, once again, I did nothing illegal. This was certified halfway through the process. It's either certified or it's not certified. There's no, it might be certified, it's gonna be certified, it's not certified. So, in a desire to work with the board, I stopped work. First I told you, I could have had this
You came in when it
graded,
was being cut.
seeded, and everything else.
Yeah, you came in
and
when
you
it was
might
all
not
being
have
cut down.
even known that this was going on,
No, I
and it
wouldn't.
wasn't certified. So I went out of my way to involve Jane in the process, right? And then once again, I just said, okay, I'm not gonna fight this. We're gonna work together, we're gonna come to some sort of a resolution, and now we're at that point where you don't seem like you wanna do that, so it's kinda like shame on me. I had the law on my side.
Can I ask you a question? How many years have you been doing this?
32.
32 years. So before the internet, how did you know if something was certified or not?
So before the internet, it didn't matter.
It didn't matter?
It didn't matter if it was certified or not, because it was only yielded the protection that the state gave it, which was its area. This vernal pool that we're discussing is not even on my property. So prior to the internet coming out, the town bylaw was not in effect, and there was no buffer zone.
When is the bylaw put in?
For the vernal pools?
Yeah.
You would ask me that.
I have no
I'm
idea.
not positive.
No. So,
And according to, if I go right through all of the bylaws, the National Heritage website, everybody pushes you to that Mass Oliver. This is how you find out
Well,
whether or
no,
not it's
so my
certified through
point
Mass
is-
Oliver.
my point is,
Now,
sir,
no, let me finish my point.
okay.
I followed the line of the law. I did everything that the law told me to do. I am not gonna go out of my way to find this. I am gonna use the resources that I'm instructed to use, and I did that. I used the resources that I was instructed to use. You know that this just showed up as a certified vernal pool 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago.
So my point was, thank you for that. My point was, prior to the internet, there was, my understanding is, and I've only been on this council for less than 3 years, that there was a book that was published periodically. But in between printings, things get approved. So
Right.
if the book gets approved, say, every 10 years, so in 1990, book gets approved, something gets approved in 1995, it's not in the book, and the book's not getting published till 2000.
Right.
How does the builder, how does somebody know? In the past, how would you find, you'd have to go and ask questions and find out and be certain,
It basically was irrelevant, because if it's a certified vernal pool, it's an isolated land subject to flooding. You're not allowed to work in, fill an isolated land subject to flooding.
So my
So
point
you
is, if
treat
something
it as an
got, if something
isolated
got,
land subject to
if
flooding.
something got certified in 1995, outside when the book was published, how do you find out if
It doesn't
was?
matter, it doesn't, from a builder's perspective, a planner's perspective, engineer's perspective, it does not matter is the isolated land is subject to flooding is what's the controlling point there.
So you're
In
saying
fact,
you-
the isolated land subject to flooding in a lot of instances is a greater area than the vernal pool.
So you would just ignore the fact that there might have been a vernal pool?
From a legal standpoint, yes, it didn't matter.
Okay, I'm done.
Okay, for isolated land subject to flooding, the performance, well, the interests it protects do not include wildlife habitat unless it's been shown that the wildlife of a vernal pool, which is very unique habitat, unless it is found that it is functioning as a vernal pool. And you can protect that vernal pool as much as you want, but if you've gotten rid of the upland habitat of the amphibians that breed there, 100 feet isn't even as far as they go. They go much farther than that. So, you know, we're just gonna go round and round in circles, but the thing is, the reason they did the certification way back when was to protect the wildlife functions of the isolated land subject to flooding. And once that presumption was overcome, the presumption of non-significance by a clear showing that it functioned as a vernal pool, it was protectable as a vernal pool. Now, as you know, under the Wetlands Protection Act, 100 feet from a vernal pool is protectable only if it's within the wetland, bordering vegetated wetlands, which is why towns, Foxborough as one, vote to protect that 100 foot as a minimum buffer. I think some are much more. And I mean, we can even look at it and say, well, they'd probably be in this area and not so much in this area. The south-facing slopes are where they go. That's exactly where you cut. And I don't know if you noticed, but the thing was really low this year. And I think it's probably because you don't have, you know, you've got all this, you don't have you've got the heat because there are no trees, dries up a whole lot on the slope, which isn't preserving the water down below. So it's just a whole domino effect.
I understand, and I'm not arguing the 100-foot buffer zone. I was answering a question as to why that book and the publication of that book and the dating of that book in relations to the town of Foxborough did not matter for us, whether if it was a vernal pool, a certified vernal pool, or an isolated land subject to flooding. So we treated it as an isolated land subject to flooding because it had no additional protection as a certified vernal pool. So that book and the publication of that book didn't matter. And the internet's been around a long time.
No, it did. If it was a certified vernal pool, it did matter because you'd have to get a 401 water quality certification and you would not be able to have any fill material of any kind, including stormwater, that can be considered fill. You would not be able to have any of those things. And if you look around town, there's an awful lot of vernal pools that there are a lot of detention basins that used to be vernal pools. And it's because they were hard to protect, and that is why the town voted for the 100-foot upland area as a no disturb, because otherwise it's not going to matter. You won't have any creatures breeding in it because they don't live in the vernal pools. They simply lay their eggs there. We can go around and around with this forever. I still don't really know what we can do short of denying it because, you know, you always hear you cannot create your own hardship.
So can I counter-argue again to something that you just mentioned? This is all about protecting the creatures.
Yes.
Agreed?
The interest, the habitat.
We all agree? The habitat.
It's
We want to
not the
protect the
creatures,
habitat.
it's the interest.
And the water.
So, south-facing slopes, their preferred habitat. That is a north arrow. Where's the south-facing slope?
It's
all
not
in-
just pointing south.
You've exposed the
All in
vernal
here.
pool, you've exposed the vernal pool to sunlight, more sunlight than it normally gets.
So,
So south, southeast, southwest, but not necessarily north
if I'm forced, as
facing.
we've had a discussion tonight about using this area over here, where am I going into all the south-facing part of this area, i.e. the potential habitat?
All right, so
Right,
maybe
so
you
I'm
can
providing
overcome that
additional
presumption.
habitat by not disturbing this area. There is some south-facing slope over in here, but the majority of it isn't. So the protect the habitat rule, if it truly is south-facing, it doesn't seem to be really applicable here. And in my proposal, I'm offering to restore this, right, which we will, over time, get some sunlight protection for that vernal pool, or it looks like we may have a fight, and I'm not gonna restore that, and I'm gonna pull everything out of the,
Yeah, I don't want to fight. I don't think that'd be fun.
I don't want to either. That's
So
why
what
I'm
we
trying
want
to
is you
talk our way through this.
overcome the presumption of significance. So if you're saying that you would not be cutting that hillside that does face due south, that you just pointed to, you'd have it as a no disturb zone, you'd have boundaries, you'd have a deed restriction.
I would be happy to do all of those things and protect this area in here. Well, to the edge of the septic system.
Well,
And we
But
get
the-
this, and we get this area.
we've got something
restored.
called presumption of significance. That area needs to be restored, and it needs to have bounds that will keep people from, I mean, other than having the kids go down with their nets and catching critters, which my son did it when he was younger. That will keep them off of there, and it seems to me there's almost no way to make sure that there won't be invasives, because the invasives are growing there now that you've opened up the seed bed. So you're talking about the 40-foot or the 20-foot?
The 20-foot.
Is that 20-foot or is that 40?
No, that's 40-foot. That's why we're really talking about an insignificant portion of the land. When I say 20 feet, it's really not 20 feet, because if we pull this 20 feet, you know, we're over here, so it's just a small area in here.
Yes, and how are you going to keep people
Just a-
from disturbing it?
So-
From touching it with a shovel?
The counter argument is, if I build the house where it is, outside of the jurisdiction, what's gonna keep the people, give the people a reasonable yard area,
They're not
put some
entitled.
boundaries and tell them what they're supposed to do? You have that issue
Instead of a
everywhere.
yard, you make a deck along the whole rear, which is what I have. I have no backyard. I have a view. The view is of that habitat. And it would be quite nice if it was allowed to be nice, but this year it is not a good example of one. The water quality is poor. I'm not sure if things survived very well. That's just discouraging.
Say,
But having a backyard deck and maybe a fence, so that people could go back there with their little feet.
Say, Jim, are you on?
Jim doesn't want to be on. Jim probably doesn't want to be on.
And the other thing which the question was asked about, you know, yes, that's gonna be a difficult point for me to deal with. If I have 20 feet, I have reasonable area for construction during the process too. The house isn't gonna get any closer. The house will stay outside of the 100-foot, but it is very tight for me working in that area.
Since I didn't see the restoration plan, is it a substantial restoration plan with
I wasn't here for that meeting, so I have
planting
no idea.
large trees of 6 or 8 more inches?
Yes.
According to Dr. Rockwood, he included the largest trees that could be done and not be done mechanically, because we don't want to bring any mechanical equipment in there in order to have to mobilize trees or plant trees or anything, so.
That's a six.
Where?
No.
I don't know. I just have that photo at one point.
I give to you.
Well, okay. Yeah, the whole thing, I think, boils down to presumption of significance. Can you overcome that presumption? Now, does that have a habitat value right now? It's been destroyed. For whatever reason. If there were any way that you could give them a backyard like mine, which is a 40-foot by 10-foot deck, and we sit out there all the time with our binoculars looking at things and we're like geeks, but it's great. and restoring that area and making the other area no disturb as well. You're going to have to get a very special kind of person who wants a little wildlife preserve. And have some sort of a buffer. I wouldn't want to have to enforce it, but you'd have to have some sort of buffer zone, demarcation. A fence can be taken down. It would have to have some sort of, in the deed, a deed restriction.
So a deed restriction at the
In the actual,
100-foot buffer, but we,
Same thing
I would think, again, personally, I would be more concerned about this area.
well, at this point,
And deed
because the
restrict that.
other stuff has been
Right.
messed up. So if you're saying that
Right,
you.
It's in a natural state, and it's predominantly south-facing, so,
And it is
and if this
farther
gets
away.
cleared, this is gonna start to affect this area.
Yeah. We could condition it, we could condition an order of conditions, saying, you know, based on a deed restriction approved by the commission to their satisfaction, and the presumption of significance of the, excuse me, area beyond the 100-foot no disturb, if that were to be protected as well, because they migrate much farther than 100 feet, maybe that could be a balance type of thing that could be reached. I just want it done. I know you do too. But like I'm saying, who's going to want to buy a house where you can't touch a whole bunch of your property? A lot of people say, I have an acre and I want to clear
Right.
every square inch of it.
Right, and that is my A, challenge, B, objective to what I'm trying to do.
So what is it that
A
you-
reasonable yard.
What is it that you
It's
filed
gonna
with the
take an
planning
even
board?
more certain person, you know, like yourself, that would be okay with that. Most people want to have a little yard.
No, I
in
know,
the
I'm
back
kind of,
So they can,
I'm odd, I know that. I'm not your average person.
I didn't say that.
Well, I'm unique. So what is it you filed with the planning board? Were you going to change that lot line so that you had a little more room for a house in there?
Trying to get the, pull the house away a little bit more.
Weren't you proposing to change the lot line?
Yes, to
How?
pull the house away from the 100-foot
Where would it,
area.
where are you proposing it for it to be?
It could potentially slide this way a little bit.
The lot line?
The lot line is gonna change, don't hold me to this to be exact. We were just gonna do something like this and do a swap out down here.
Why don't we continue this for one more time and think about it now that we've got all the facts? And
This is weak.
I think it could be a good middle ground, and slap your wrist and never do it
I
again.
realize the issue.
So, I mean, I would
Not having trucks
request
When I
to
say
just,
screw that,
not a lot of detail,
have trucks go in.
but saying, here is the,
He's already
you
screwed.
know.
Slide the line up and show what that looks like.
Here's the proposal, what you're proposing.
Right, in writing, so that we can have
And then we
something
have,
that you
yeah, then we
say.
have something we can vote on versus
Like to beat
voting
this
on
up.
this, and we're gonna change this, we don't really have the detail in any, you know, I don't wanna see him, you know, we have a verbal, here's what we're gonna do, but having something on a piece of paper,
Right.
that would help a
Right.
lot.
After the planning board has reviewed the lot adjustment that you've proposed.
Increasing the size of those.
Okay.
Yes.
Then you would have more of an area for the house and the yard.
You don't want to get
You
too close
would not
because it could be-
restore as much as the 100-foot, but you would protect all of the the rear corner,
Yep.
because I think that you could argue that was more significant habitat, certainly now.
Basically, there we are.
Okay.
But we need to get it from you in writing instead of having a condition, because conditions can be ignored or appealed.
Right.
Okay.
Sound fair?
Yep.
I mean, that could work.
I'm good with that.
That could work. I'm still not happy, but it could work. Just don't ever do it again.
I promise.
I'd like to ask something of the restoration plan. And I apologize, I wasn't here when you first went over it. I'm not so worried about trucks bringing heavy equipment in there, and the rest of the members can speak for themselves, but to bring in larger trees. I'd just like to see, I mean, these are only 6-foot high, 8-foot high trees. I'd like to see larger trees with 6 or 8-inch diameters in there that may require equipment.
In what quantity?
I think what you've
Instead
got-
of what
I think-
there is
I think
there?
what you've got here, quantities you've got here, or some ratio, or
I think what's
half and
going to be
half, or-
most important is having an understory of shrubs and a few really large trees that will shade them.
Yep.
Because the problem is, right now, you have a habitat that's not
Yeah, they don't all need to be
reparable
large.
unless it has shade.
I think you have to have some substantial trees in there that will produce the shade.
That would take some consideration on my part.
I'm just looking to recover what we lost, that's all. I don't want, I'm not trying to screw you out of a lot. You know, you've bought this spot, you're a business person, I understand that.
Well, once again, so.
And we want to work with you.
We know
We
it's
do.
going to take 20-plus years for anything to get the height and shading,
Right,
even partially to what it used to be.
right.
I mean, whatever's done has been done. If we work forward and just get a plan in there that's going to be acceptable to really giving a real restoration to the area, then I'd be open to.
Yeah, I would think putting more, I wasn't here for John Rockwood's
Would all waste a lot of time and energy,
discussion,
I mean.
but I think fewer very large trees and more
More
shrub-type
under-
ground cover.
Okay.
Because you can't make the habitat they need without having the shade to start with, because the plants that will be growing there are shade-loving plants. So it's catch-22.
And he mentioned doing more work by hand and not getting any equipment in there, but some of that area's already been run over with the skidders, moving out the trees and,
Yeah, not a lot. I mean, there's some in closer in here that's kind of been disturbed.
but down further though, to
You know, a
get those
lot of
trees out
this
of there.
stuff really had minimal disturbance.
Right.
I mean, certainly that makes our life a lot easier if that we don't have that restriction on us, that it can't be done mechanically.
Well,
But
the
you need
thing
to
is
put-
planting large trees or large saplings, large big balls. it's
And
gonna
not
take-
evergreens either. That's the problem. I think, we've got to move on, guys. I
Yep.
think that if you were to put in writing what you're saying you would do, I can make a finding that preserving that upper right corner or the north corner there and a little bit less of the disturbed area would overcome would like overcome, I don't know, what's the word? Not presumption of significance. It would be a net environmental benefit, perhaps, I guess.
Okay.
And that's what our bottom line always is, net environmental benefit. That baby keeps drinking and drinking.
So can we continue to the next meeting?
That would be ideal, I think.
Yeah, just put together, just put together a concise letter that we can say, well, you made this representation that you would do this.
Okay. And I'll also ask Bill Buckley if he can just show this line moved and we can get a visual
Yeah, and
as to how
actually
much of the
hearing
area
whatever
we're
the
actually talking about.
The planning board thing is going to be a huge help, too.
That's this
Planning board's approval not
Thursday?
required, that's not, they just sign it.
You
Yeah,
sign it? Okay.
yeah, there's no,
But giving you a little more wiggle room that
There's no
way.
questions
And showing it
and-
on a plan,
Yep, that'd be helpful.
instead of saying, well, trying to dredge up what was discussed.
okay.
And then, because we don't want a he said, she said, remember?
Yes.
We want it in writing, we want a
think I
clear,
said- I
we
think
want
I
a
said
clear
that.
and concise path. What?
We think
I
we
said,
heard-
I
we
think I
we
said
heard
that.
said
Yes,
we say that.
yes, we want a clear and concise path.
Right. So I'll move to continue Garrett Splain Road till our next meeting, which is
October 18th,
November 18th.
Second.
October 18th.
I'm sorry, October 18th, sorry.
Second. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Being 7:20 PM, we have 28 Camp Road, notice of intent, 157-609.
That's been
Continued
continued.
hearing.
They've asked for a continuance to the 18th,
Okay.
so you just need a motion.
I move to continue 28 Camp Road, 157-609 to October 18th.
18th.
Second.
All right.
Aye.
Jim, you there?
Do we have something in writing asking for that continuance or
He
email?
called up on the phone and asked for it. Don Triani is out of state or something. Didn't he say he was in Florida?
We did make a verbal, we can ask for a written. Good point.
Still have executive session, right?
What do we got on the,
You gonna do the executive session, or are you
No,
doing the
what's-
open session first about the West Street?
Oh, is that what this is? Okay.
Open session first, I think open session was after, so that it would be, oh, look, she's sleeping.
Okay.
So that you could come back and discuss what you had said you would approve, I think. Is Chris Gallagher out there in the ether
He
somewhere?
was.
What?
He was, there
Yep.
he is.
There he is.
There.
It's Kim.
Explain. What are we supposed to be doing with the executive session and then the open session after? Oop, can't hear you.
We can see you, yeah, something's going on our end, maybe.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can,
Now we can
Getting
turn it
there.
up
Are
a
you
little.
here?
there's Lance too.
If we may make a request to the board, can we have Chris go before the executive session? It's getting a bit late in the hour.
Adrian, the executive session is so the commission has a couple of minutes just to discuss
I see.
the letter, and then we'll come out
Oh,
of executive session and go right into the discussion with yourself and what the board may or may not approve as far as the agreement goes.
Okay, terrific. I thought it was
Okay.
on our other town business.
Nope, that's what we got. And Jim, we can hear you, so we do have you on.
Can you hear me? Yeah, can you hear me?
Barely. Barely.
Barely.
Can you hear me?
Can you turn it up?
Hello?
Everything?
It sounds like it's playing over there.
No, it's
How's
pretty
that?
good, but it's really it's really quiet.
We can hear you.
We can hear you, yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
Don't we have to vote to
Where's
go into
Jim?
executive session?
Well,
Loud.
if we go into the executive, we
They
do.
said we do,
What?
did they say we're doing open and then,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are we doing open
Well-
first?
yes.
No, executive session first, so that we can discuss the stipulated agreement for West Street for the dam. And then we'll come out of executive session and talk with Adrian,
Okay.
who is counsel for the abutter.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so, yeah, you do need to make a vote, and he needs to shut off the recording.
We are now currently back in open session. Do we have any other additional comments? First from Chris.
No, just an update. We did receive the existing conditions report from Epsilon Associates for 31 West Street for the pond that abuts West Street and 31 West Street. That has been circulated to Jane and a couple of the commission members. Hopefully everybody has seen that. Adrian has seen that as well. Adrian is counsel for Mr. McNulty, the abutter at 31 West Street. And he joins us to try to work through the stipulated agreement that has been drafted, in regards to what might make the appeals be rescinded on the DEP permits.
Do we have any additional comments from Adrian?
Is Jim still there?
Sure. I didn't know if I was supposed to really speak very much at this. The last time I talked with Chris, he said that as the applicants or as the appellants, we didn't really need to say much at the Conservation Commission hearing. I mostly wanted to make myself present to answer questions if you all had any, and get any updates from you if you had any thoughts on the Epsilon report or conditions in light of the information provided in that report.
Jim, are you on?
Jim?
Yeah, Adrian, this is Jim Marsh. How you doing?
Good. How are you doing, Jim?
Good. So, we just had a chance to speak with Chris about the report, and we had been on site with you as both Dave and I and your clients and Chris at some point in the past, and discussed sort of thoughts on how to resolve, if we could, your client's issue with the drop in the water levels due to the new culvert. And we were waiting on the report, right? So that would sort of guide us as to how to handle this. It appears that there's going to be a drop that will essentially create a loss in water from your client's property from about 15 to 20 feet. I don't know if you've looked at that and you agree to that or not.
I'd have to double check the report. I didn't see it as 20 feet. I thought it was somewhat less than that, but I'll double check the number in the Epsilon report for the distance and contouring.
So just to, and you can do that. Go ahead. But my feeling based on that, and really, here talking to Chris about this, that seems like a lot of fill, because we were thinking about moving the wall. That was a discussion as a possible way of resolving the issue, and then your client would drop his appeal so we could get this project started. I just feel like, that's, a feeling. I hate to say the word feeling, but maybe it seems to be a lot of area to fill so that we can move the wall out to the new water line. So, the client, the commission can sort of chime in on this, but I think we're sort of headed in a different direction. But in a direction that still may appease your client, so that they have that access to the water. We're thinking more so at this stage
What's the client's name?
an extension of the lawn by way of a dock from the wall out across the area that will no longer be water or land underwater, which will eventually turn back to, I guess, will become bordering vegetated wetland to the water line.
All right.
That's sort of our thought here. Or at least,
Would it be
go ahead.
Would it be a wooden dock? Would it be floating or posted? How wide? And how far do we have to go to reach the edge of the water? And what do we do in different seasons?
Right. So that's a great question. I don't think we're there yet, and we just discussed the idea of the dock tonight.
Now we have.
I just don't. Go ahead.
I received this motion for expedited consideration based on dam safety. I did review it, and while that's more of a legal question than strictly a conservation question, most of the findings were already in condition, and I don't think they introduced any new information. So if we are not able to, I guess, reach this initial settlement, I do have to, I guess, get started on opposing the expedited appeal motion. But I think that shouldn't preclude us from discussing this dock alternative. I want to double check the, I guess, distance out. I thought the Epsilon report didn't show very much of a change. I thought it was still around 10 feet, but if it's 15 to 20, I'll verify that number.
I'm not committing, or the commission's not committing to any length or width at this point. My thought here is to get your client to commit to the idea of a dock. And then you can come back to us and tell us whether that's something that he finds reasonable. And if that's the case, then we can sort of work with that. I don't know. Remember, this is a report that's proposing a line based on, you know, they're running numbers essentially to find where that line may be based on what that project's impact is going to be on the water line, right? I don't know what that line's going to be.
I believe
I can't
environmental
commit to that.
partners
The commission can't
did.
commit to an existing line.
I
Till
think
then.
that environmental partners did a flow calculation with the initial environmental impact report. And then this follow-up calculation that was performed by Epsilon was based in part on the flow calculation and the other contour data that was provided. So I think that the underwater topography was largely measured prior to this by environmental partners, unless I'm quoting that wrong. Maybe Chris would be able to opine.
Yeah, Adrian, what I made sure Epsilon did while they were out there, they actually went out in the water and measured those depths from the wall. And I just shared my screen, I don't know if you can see it or not, but with the distance from the rock wall and the water depth, at 5 feet, it drops about 8 inches. At 10 feet, it drops 16 inches. And then somewhere between 15 and 20 feet, it drops that full 24 inches that's been proposed as the new elevation of the water based on the culvert design. So that 15 to 20 feet was kind of jarring for us and for the commission to look at. And
so
as
this
far as
15
filling
to 20
resource
foot,
area.
this 15 to 20 foot is how far the area by the culvert, or is this from the rock wall that we're discussing?
This
I
is
see the
from-
screens.
This is from the rock wall that we're discussing here.
That is quite far. I'm sympathetic to that. Okay. I'll reapproach Phil. If we leave the existing rock wall in place, your idea is that perhaps some sort of a dock and the features and nature of the dock, I guess, haven't been determined. We just brought it up now, apparently.
Yes. Right, it's not at this point. But the idea, we're floating the idea, have your client, you know, you can discuss with your client, see if that's something that your client finds reasonable. We will work on the widths, lengths, you know, whether it's permanent, seasonable, whatever. Let's just find out first from him whether that's something he can work with us on.
Yeah, and I think that if the water level is moving that profoundly, the feature he is enjoying may have to be changed. I'll approach him because this is actually more than we had actually initially thought. I thought the water level was calculated to drop 1.5 feet from what is it, 68 to 66.5?
Yeah, 168 to 166. There may be a couple decimal places in there, but that's what Epsilon pulled into their report.
Okay, so wait, so they projected the elevation at 166 feet. I thought that the original flow calculations were for a drop to 166.5. Did they just pick a lower water line for the projected shoreline?
I'll have to go back in and check the environmental partners report, the design on that existing or the proposed culvert.
No, do we have the status conference, I think, on October 22nd, right?
Our next meeting is October 18th, so we can talk before that meeting. Well, you can meet with the Conservation Commission before that meeting, right? And we can have that discussion about whether the dock works for your client and whether it's, you know, he finds it to be reasonable before that status conference.
Okay. I'll get him on the phone tomorrow because we're close to having to make decisions on sort of what posture we have to take going forward. I thought we were actually making pretty good progress. I emailed McDara, who was the administrator, earlier today with a copy of the proposed settlement, which I guess actually isn't as established as I thought we had it.
Well, I think Adrian, to that point, it's really that one line about a stone wall to be placed along the proposed pond limits to the east. I think the rest of the agreement is ready to go. It really is that one line, and that's what we've always talked about. Is that's up to the commission. It's filling resource area. It's relocating a stone wall within resource area. That's not something that I could commit to. When the report came out that we were, 15 to 20 feet off the shoreline, that was, again, a lot more fill than everybody was thinking about when we met on site. So
conservation's hangup is, and this is more fill than we had discussed. I'll credit you with that. I don't oppose it as a question of fact. And based on what we just saw in the report, it's more than I had been aware of as well. So I'll take that to my client and see if he's open to, I guess, a dock as a solution. And that would still be something that the town would be able to take to, I guess, the contractor in lieu of the wall, correct?
yes, yep.
All right. So hopefully we can still stay on that good path. I know that the alternative is to go through this relatively involved appeal process. We haven't done the briefing yet, but I have to get started on that if I'm going to. And that gets far away from the shoreline issues and more towards sort of the culvert that we had discussed earlier. But I'll take this to my client, and I do appreciate you having the time to hear us this evening. Are there
Great,
further
thank you so
questions?
much.
Yeah. Oh, actually, while I got you, I heard you earlier this evening, going on about the width of roads, on the peninsula and on a couple other sites. Did you have any size preferences or constraints in mind with the proposed dock so that I can give him an idea of what the bounds that you would consider are?
It would be a reasonable size. Let's put it that way. I don't know. It's not something we've gotten into as to the specifics. Obviously we wouldn't constrict him. We would hope that he would have, a size dock that he could use and enjoy. You could put it that way with your client.
All right. Thank you so much. I will approach him tomorrow, and I'll get back to Chris as soon as I can go over it with Mr. McNulty.
Great. Thank you so much. Appreciate
Adrian.
you coming on tonight.
Thank you.
You all have a good evening.
Okay.
How we doing?
Anything else here?
No?
I think we need,
I'm here.
We're all set?
Yep.
thanks,
Thank you, Chris.
Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
And Lance.
Thanks, Lance.
Lance?
Thanks, Chris.
Have a good night, everyone.
Two.
Done?
Make a motion?
We're done.
Sure.
Make motion to adjourn the meeting?
Second?
I didn't make it.
Oh, I make a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks, everyone.